Thursday, January 16th, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. We got a good one lined up for you today as we inch closer to the national championship game. I am interested in people's interest.
Of?
Not ours. Not the people on this show or in this building. I think everybody's going to watch it and wants to see how it goes, but just our almost casual college football fans out there. Are you looking forward to it? Are you just going to kind of casually watch it? Are you going to be dialed into it? Are there parts of it that you are excited to see? Maybe even some of the spectacle around it when you talk about Monday's national championship game. 800-239-9569. You want to get in. First hour going to be open. 4 calls, 4 feedback. Then we'll get Bobby Carpenter at 8. This is going to be a cool conversation. Bobby Carpenter does radio for SiriusXM, does some work for ESPN. He was Marcus Freeman's teammate at Ohio State. So he'll give us a totally different view of Coach Freeman, what he was, and how he's turned into what he is now. They're still good friends. Be a cool conversation. Also, a former Ohio State football player to give us his thoughts on the national championship game. We'll talk to Wimp Sanderson at 9. Another big night of SEC hoops last night. Another big night of hoops locally. We'll get to UAB and Sanford today. Ryan Harris, Super Bowl champion with the Broncos, now does color for the Notre Dame Radio Network. He'll be with us at 9:30. And if you want to hear somebody gush about Marcus Freeman, just ask Ryan Harris about him. He absolutely loves the guy, loves what he does for the program, how he carries himself, how he manages the program. So we'll have that conversation as well. So a lot of national championship game talk today. And one of the things that we've wanted to focus on this week, Greg, was, by the way, we've got some portal news, some coaching news. We'll talk a little bit of NFL with the playoffs coming up this weekend. All that and more. At Mac and Cube, you can tweet in, listen online, jocksfm.com, watch live on YouTube, search Jocks945. How are you this morning?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Good spot, good mentals. Woke up at 3:30.
Yee.
Yeah. Other than that.
Wasn't a great night of sleep for me last night. Went to bed a little bit late.
I don't know what the deal is.
Shout out to my John over at Pizza Pools for letting me break with them last night. That was a lot of fun. Nobody knows what that is here, but just
no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's fun.
I saw the graphic.
Yeah,
Pizza Pools?
We did have a graphic.
Yeah,
It's a long story, Greg, and
we got time.
First off, you would laugh at it.
Sounds good.
He does want to talk to you about crypto, though. I told him you're a big crypto guy. He's in on crypto.
Accurate. I like him already.
So the trading card game has gotten pretty expensive.
No.
If you hadn't paid attention to it, and this is something that I think that you will probably be getting into here in a couple years, but it's not for kids anymore.
No.
Because it costs a ton of money. And so what people are doing now is they join a break. So you will buy into a break. So a box of cards that would cost $500, you can buy a team for $80 or $60, and you get everything that's opened up from that box of that team. So if you want a Paul Skeens card, you go buy the Pirates for $100 in a box that costs $750. You're hoping to pull that out. So you save money. You're still taking a pretty big risk by being able to get that. And people do this in different spots. Pizza Pulls, my guy John, he does it here over in Vestavia or Hoover. And they let me come in and break with them last night. Just rip some packs for people.
What does break mean?
Open the boxes of cards. Open the packs of cards.
You got the lingo and everything.
You're full
nerd.
I told you there was a graphic. He's official now.
I've nerded out on it. My kids kind of pulled me back in. Judd started getting into it. I was into it as a kid, and I am
full nerd.
I've taken a headfirst dive back in.
Yep. Nerdville.
It's almost unhealthy right now, but it's also a lot of fun, and is what it is. So.
Oh, it definitely is what it is.
It's that. It's right there.
I can confirm.
Right there in line with crypto changing our complete banking system. So,
well, crypto's not a piece of cardboard on a.
Oh, you told me that 3 months ago we'd be paying for our concessions with crypto at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
If we had a system that would allow for crypto to,
that's definitely the problem.
Hold.
Yes.
We'll see come Monday.
Yeah. Because there's
crypto or TikTok, better future.
Because banks to me are not at all powerful.
No, not necessary either. We should just let people run around and do whatever they want with their cash.
Huh? What kind of do with Venmo?
In a free society, that's what it would happen.
Do we have our guys read today? Freedom Financial? Go ahead and get that out.
Yeah, 90 minutes, yeah.
Perfect. 90 minutes is enough of a window.
No, we don't need to go into it any further, but I appreciate John. Let me hang out.
Letting you nerd out.
Yeah, but I stayed up a little bit late. So other than that, we're doing good.
That's cool, nerd.
Let's go. Listen, hey, I'm fine with it. It's cool.
Welcome to the club. It's been lonely here without y'all.
What instrument were you third row on?
No.
We're talking nerds
first
today.
year.
Okay. Yeah.
That was
First year.
sixth grade. So if you want to call the sixth grade version of myself nerd, I'm fine with that.
Right.
I can live with that. I probably was a little nerdy back
What
in the day.
finalists were you in college?
Rhodes Scholar.
There you go.
don't have to be a nerd to be smart and apply yourself.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
That is accurate. You can be smart and not a nerd.
Noted.
Smart and apply yourself and not a nerd.
Noted.
It's just dumb people call smart people nerds.
Noted.
Because it makes them feel better about themselves.
Noted. Let me get this
But there is one thing that I do know.
Let me get this straight.
Yes.
Dumb people call smart people nerds.
To make themselves feel better.
You
about
just
themselves.
called me what for what I did last night?
No, there are some exclusions. There are some exclusions. Video games and trading cards make you a nerd automatically. And anime. And Pokemon.
Pokeball or Pokemon?
Pokeballs, rip. Pokemon, nerd.
Oh, I think you might be one calling it that way.
Exactly. All right. I want to go into these rosters and begin a conversation around Ohio State and Notre Dame and just kind of what they look like, what they are. Yesterday, GMAC, we talked about Notre Dame not having a 5-star recruit on their roster. And it kind of makes sense when you watch. I mean, Jeremiah Love would be surprising. Xavier Watts would probably be surprising. I'm just thinking of the guys who athletically who move around and are the get off the bus types that you would look at and say, that guy wasn't a 5-star. But Riley Leonard, not overly surprising. I mean, he doesn't take off and run and you think, oh, wow, look how fast. I mean, it's just, he doesn't throw a deep ball and you say, look how far. But a bunch of 5-stars there still. Does it surprise you though that they had none? Like not an O lineman, not a D lineman. I think it
depends on the service. I think they did have a couple of guys that were on the cusp of 5-star status, probably at some publications, like Bryce Young. The defensive end is a
not
true freshman.
Panthers quarterback.
No, different guy, much bigger.
He would be, he would be another one. But that I would watch play and say he wasn't a 5-star.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he was on like some
certain
publications,
places,
so I don't know. I mean, I've always said that the amount of stars you get sometimes is dependent on who you commit to. People don't want to hear that. People don't want to acknowledge that, but it's the business. It's the realities. Like where you go will determine how many stars you get. I know people hate thinking that. I know people think it's some conspiracy. No, as someone that knows the business.
I think a lot of people deep down know that there is at least some reality to that. It's obviously not consistent because if you're just referencing Alabama, look at the 5-stars who have been really good. I mean, it's
100%. Their hit rate's outrageous.
I mean, Cam Williams was pretty good. Julio Jones, pretty good.
Absolutely. But there's a reason why they got 5 stars. Because they had trust and faith in Nick Saban's evaluation and development. There's a reason why they got 5 stars. Because they knew, oh, hang on. If Nick Saban sees something, this kid must be the real deal. There's a reason why Chance Warmack went from like 2-star to 4-star overnight. And Kareem Jackson. Had no offers. But as soon as he commits to the Tide, he's JUCO All-American. I'm not saying it, and it's not just Bama. Georgia gets the same treatment. Ohio State gets the treatment in some cases. Like this happens other places.
Is Kareem Jackson the most underrated player of the Saban era?
I think he gets his due.
Does he? I don't think so. He was first runner,
just
right?
early. He's just early Saban era. I mean, he played with me. It's a long time ago.
I just don't feel like he never got the Pat Surtain. He was a 20th pick first and foremost.
Yeah.
No one was talking about him coming out like that. He never got the
even on his own team. Like we were on his team. It was like Kareem's declaring. Did you hear that Reem's going? I'm like, no, what? But we didn't know.
Okay.
But
maybe if that's the case, then maybe it kind of makes sense. The sort of why that would be. But I feel like he went off the board early. Then he was really good in the NFL for a long time, and just no one ever really talked about him that way.
He's a great player. I just don't think that as things have changed, like the whole shutting guys down and keeping your mouth shut was like not in vogue.
How much do you think he's made?
A ridiculous amount. He's a phenomenal football player. 100?
79.7.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
And still nobody talks about him.
No, he was a beast, but he was of the Darrell Revis mold. The Richard Sherman mold is the one that moves the needle. The more you talk, the more people think you're great. You know, like I think people look back and think Drake Kirkpatrick was way better than Kareem Jackson. I don't know if he was or wasn't.
But that's like the Kool-Aid McKinstry, the Drake Kirkpatrick, like we talked about them like they were Dion in college. And no one ever talked about Kareem Jackson in college or out of college. He goes 20th and he's made $80 million and played in the league forever.
Yeah.
That's why I think, and maybe he wasn't unbelievable at Alabama. You would be better at answering that than I was.
He was really good. He was really good. He was physical, not crazy length, but he didn't arrive with some
flair
and dramatics. Like he didn't say this hat's got no swag. You know what I mean? And that's not a knock on Dre. Dre's my boy. Like I love Dre. He was a great player.
Yeah.
But I think people just remember him because there was a little more flair, a little more pizzazz.
Great producer of players also.
Yeah. I mean, so I think there's some of that. I think Kool-Aid's a name that everybody remembers. You know, I think people align with that and they think you're probably better than you are if you have things about you from a personality standpoint that are memorable. I don't know. Just a thought.
No, I think it makes sense.
And if you tell everybody how good you are, usually people start to believe it. Like Richard Sherman told everybody he was the best corner in the league. Never was.
For a long time.
Never was. Like great zone corner for sure. Cover 2, cover 3, zone corner. Great player. But not the best corner in the league. Not ever at any point was he the most feared guy in the league to throw at. Not once.
All right. So as you stated, there are a lot of different ways you can spin this and go about this and look at this and think about the different ratings. But On3 put together their sort of industry recruit rankings, and Notre Dame has 0 5-stars on this roster. Ohio State has 10. Now, to your point, because probably a lot of guys close, 53 4-stars for Notre Dame, 45 for Ohio State. 14 3-stars for Ohio State, 29 for Notre Dame. I think people might see this, Greg, and be shocked. It's not really shocking to me when I just watch the two teams on film. Like how many hard hat, like overproduction guys does Ohio State have? Not many.
No.
I mean, who would even fall into that category? I mean, like Jack Sawyer kind of looks like and plays like one of those guys. He was like super duper 5-star.
Right.
So, I mean, even the guys that haven't had this super wow career all 4 years or for 3 straight years, some of those guys are even 5-stars. Like, I don't watch Travion or Quinshon run the ball and say, yeah, I can see how they slipped through the cracks. No, they're big time guys. You can tell of what they are. And we know Quinshon's recruiting story. Like, nobody's watching Jeremiah Smith catch a ball and say, yeah, I can see where people skipped over him coming out of high school. He could be in the NFL right now. He's a true freshman.
Yeah.
So, it's not shocking to me to hear those numbers and see it on paper, whereas a lot of people I think would look at that and say, oh, wow, the differential is going to be massive. This is what it is. This is what this matchup is.
Well, I think part of that has to do with Ohio State gets the 5-star treatment. You're getting recruited by Ohio State, and they recruit a certain type, like they recruit a certain body type that is going to naturally lead to more highly producing players. Like they can recruit. They can draw a line and say, if you're under 6'1", you're not playing corner for us. If you run above a 4.5, you're not playing receiver. Like they have measurables that they can recruit to because they are Ohio State. They have a ridiculous amount of resources and they are as competitive as anybody in the NIL space. So yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, but yeah, they're a super team. I mean, this team this year in particular is a super team, but the thing that's amazing about it is that Ohio State, they haven't had any injuries outside of their offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line was kind of beat up, but yeah.
Left tackle and center are the only 2 guys that have been banged up this year. Like, that's pretty remarkable. Like, you kind of have to be, you not only have to have a top line roster, because if you look at their roster, if you get down to it from a depth standpoint, they're good, but they're not outrageous. I mean, they're really not when you really, really, really look at it. So I think that's worth noting that they've kind of gotten lucky a little bit and staying healthy. Because Notre Dame, on the other hand, that's what makes their story even more remarkable, is that they not only are they a slightly less talented team than most of the teams they've played against in the postseason, but they've done it with backups and freshmen.
It's incredible.
It's insane.
Think about how many teams, Greg, we saw lose one edge defender, one left guard, right guard, one receiver, and they were a different football team. I mean, this team has lost a laundry list of players, impactful players.
Right.
I mean, think about what we were saying, and I think we had Brian Driscoll and or Pete Sampson on before the season saying, how are you guys just lost Joe Alt? Now you lost your best tackle, and you're going to start a true freshman. Like, can they even survive this?
No.
And I remember Pete saying, I mean, it's not going to be easy.
No.
It's good thing to have a bunch of tight ends that can help. Like, they got a mobile quarterback, so all that stuff's going to help a little bit, but it's going to be tough.
It's funny, too, because I think people tout the depth of teams, and oftentimes the depth gets praised or the depth gets criticized. Like, you look at Ohio State's depth, it's not great. I mean, I'm not saying that David Adolph isn't going to be a great receiver in time, but, like, he's their backup at X. Have you heard of him?
Not familiar. Haven't seen the tape.
What about Bryson Rogers?
Have not seen
He's
the
their
tape.
backup at Z. How about Brandon Innes?
Have not seen the tape.
Senior.
Veteran.
Okay.
Good route runner.
How about
coach on the field?
How about Bennett Christian? Their backup tight end. Familiar with him?
He sounds like he's from Mountain Brook.
That's a very fair point. Probably just.
Did he play for Trent, that school in Nashville?
Probably a coach on the field. All right, so those are their receivers. How about James?
Briarcrest kid.
How about James Peoples?
I don't know James.
Okay, well, he's the third string running back behind Travion Henderson and Quinshaw Judkins. What about Caden Curry or Hero Canoe?
That's a badass name, by the way.
It's a great name. What about Caden McDonald? What about Tywone Malone or Jason Moore, Joshua Mickens?
I want to go back to
Edric
Tahoe
Houston.
Canoe, or what's his name?
Hero Canoe.
Hero Canoe, even better.
Yeah.
Where's he from? I'll buy stock in that kid right now just on his name.
Yeah, I think he's from the same planet.
What position?
He's a D tackle.
Oh, yeah. He's the next Riley Mills.
Oh, yeah, he'll be a beast. But, like, he's a junior.
Maybe he's not.
Caden Curry's a junior. Like,
it's
these,
wild,
like,
man.
Tywone Malone is a senior. Like, these are their defensive linemen, their backup defensive linemen. Like, we don't know those guys.
No.
Like, they don't produce at some ridiculous level. Like, it's their starters, and they haven't had any attrition hardly on defense whatsoever. Every one of their defensive starters that started the opener is starting in the game.
They're all there. Yeah.
They're all there. So, like, there's something to be said for that. So, having the roster is great. Having the frontline roster, having 10 5-stars that all play is fantastic as long as they're available.
Yeah.
And amazingly for Ohio State, they all are.
All right. So here's where I want to go next. Where do you believe, and I'll give mine as well, what is the closest matchup in this game? And where is the biggest differential? And we're not going to do the old Auburn Plainsman checkbox quarterback advantage, running back advantage, because that doesn't matter.
Why?
Well, because they don't play each other. I know it sounds crazy.
Well, I've listened to breakdowns on...
The two quarterbacks are not going to be throwing against one another.
I've listened to breakdowns on podcasts for years, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, you know, Will Howard over Riley Leonard. Like, I'm taking Will Howard.
Well, until we go back to Marino versus Esiason in the old quarterback challenge with the golf cart coming across 30 yards downfield and the big target with the blue chalk on the end of the ball, we'll pass on that discussion for today. But we will
I've
talk
been
about
listening to people break down games like that for years.
Good for them. You won't hear that on this show. If you would like us to, we can dumb it down a lot and have that conversation, but we're not. It'll be receivers versus DBs. It'll be D-line versus O-line. It'll be quarterbacks versus entire defenses maybe, and we'll have that discussion on the other side.
I love that quarterbacks have to play against 11 guys while all the rest of you slaps get to beat one.
Listen, the way you pound your own chests, that's the way it should be, because it feels like you could play against 22 and still be successful the way you talk about yourselves.
Dink and dunk.
That's check
You
down.
play against 22, it's check down, check down, check down.
We got trouble protecting against.
I can
11.
tell you this:
Imagine
we're
22
playing against 22. We ain't gonna run the ball very well.
You're probably not throwing it very well either. I mean, if you are, it better
We
be
have
quick.
at least some chance throwing
It
it.
better be out there quick. Not even slide protection helping you against that.
No, sprint right.
We will get to it. You better sprint over to Bromberg's as well because they got a lot of things you're going to be interested in seeing.
Always. Bromberg's is a great place. Only place that I've shopped since we've been back. We've been back for 7, 8 years now, and we know that their diamonds that they source are tremendous. They're a gift like no other, and we also know that those diamonds that they purchase, they're all responsibly sourced, and they actually help communities all over the world. They help land, they help animals, they help communities. They support the livelihood of up to 10 million people worldwide. So understand that when you shop at Bromberg's, you're not just purchasing something that's special. It's going to be in your family for a really long time, but you're having a positive impact on people around the globe. To discover the latest natural diamond jewelry, visit Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit.
All right, when we come back, excuse me, were you finished?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, got it. All
Thank
right,
you.
when we come back, we will give you the tale of the tape. Ohio State and Notre Dame next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Roster differential. Matchup breakdown. National Championship game coming up on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:25 a.m. Thursday, January 16th, Jocks 94.5. You can listen online, jocksfm.com. Grab the app. The app will take you to all the podcasts. It'll take you to the YouTube link. You can watch the show on YouTube live, and you can just listen live there as well. It's everything you need right there on the Jocks app. Download that now in the App Store. Some quick portal news before we move into these roster breakdowns. This is a good get, I believe, Greg. Missouri gets former Georgia edge Damon Wilson. Missouri's having a low-key good portal offseason here, but that is a good get off the edge. I mean, he is a big-time athlete off the edge for that Missouri defense now.
You always wondered, like, there was more in the tank there.
I believe that.
You know what I mean? Like, he was always a little bit shelved and a little bit overlooked probably by Jalen Walker. They were bringing in 18 for a little while off the edge, the freshman Chris Cole.
I think so.
So, like, he was in there. They'd slide down Michael, and it's like, why doesn't 10 get more run? Never really got a real answer on that, by the way. So, hopefully now he'll be in a featured spot at Missouri, not just another guy in the mix that they need to feature, and will kind of reach his potential, because I think he's got a lot of game. He plays heavier-handed than some of the other guys. I think he's a little straight line. He's not as flexible, a little stiff, but
when you watch him move, he's not far off from Jalen Walker. And Jalen Walker's like
he's violent. No,
top
he's
of the
super
totem
violent.
pole, being able to move around. Yeah. Tennessee cornerback Gerard McCoy torn ACL in training, so he'll miss spring practice. Should be fine for the season, but a big blow there for them in spring ball. Tim Banks working on an extension as well to stay on as the defensive coordinator there. Troy offensive guard Daniel King's going to go to the portal. 2,642 snaps. I actually talked to John Sumrall about him yesterday. Sumrall loves this kid. He's a junior college kid, so he actually has an extra year because of that new JUCO rule, so he'll take advantage of it.
Is that not the most amazing rule?
It's wild. And he'll probably end up at like I would say an upper tier group of 4 team. There could be like a power 5 team that kind of stretches on him. Not super athletic, but he's a grinder, man. He's hard-nosed, a good player. And then this one's for you. Richmond quarterback Camden Coleman, not Auburn receiver Cam Coleman, has committed to James Madison. Why is that interesting? Well,
because he's boys with Sluka?
The other kid who quit on his team in the middle of the season because of a quarterback competition or wanting more money and not thinking that the next guy could be good has also committed there. Yes, Sluka is committed to James Madison. Coleman last year, 13-1 as a starter, 3,192 yards passing, 26 touchdowns, 2 picks. So the
How back is Camden Coleman?
JMU quarterback room will actually be interesting to watch this offseason.
Are you buying a Camden Coleman jersey?
I'm not buying a Sluka jersey.
Why? It'll be a collector's item.
I had gotten you.
Will it?
I had gotten
or is he going to try to charge me double for it after I've had it for 3 months?
Triple. But I got you a.
The nation's still fooled on that thing, by the way. It's amazing to me.
The nation refuses to acknowledge
think
that they
like
were wrong.
Me, Greg, and Josh Pate are the only ones that knew how that thing went down. Like, make a phone call.
If people had the number, they'd call. But think about how dumb people are when it comes to actually going and doing due diligence to actually find out information nowadays. Like, it's not that hard. Like, I've almost just got in trouble.
Yeah,
but I'm going to resist.
We'll move on to
We're about to go to COVID. We're about to go to COVID land for a minute. I'm going to resist that.
We'll go on to our tail of the tape. Notre Dame, Ohio State. What do you believe from a position side of the ball perspective will be the closest matchup in this game? The most sort of back and forth, the most competitive matchup, I guess, from a position battle or side of the ball.
Meaning one that can be won by, let's just call it what it is, one that can be won by Notre Dame. Is that what you're asking? Because I think that Ohio State has a lot of advantages, but I think that there are some areas that Notre Dame can win.
Okay.
I think situational awareness is number one. And you're going to sit there and think, hang on a second, we were just talking about players, matchups. There are a few there that I want to get to, but the way Notre Dame wins this game is with situational awareness and situational dominance. It's 3 areas: red zone, 3rd down and 4th down stops, turnovers are significant. Those are the 3 biggest. And then end of half, end of game situations. Like but those might not present themselves. You know what I mean? Like those are dependent on the circumstances of the game. But the three things that they knowingly can potentially control: turnovers, third and fourth down stops, and third and fourth down conversions, and third and fourth down stops, offensively and defensively, respectively.
What happened right before the half in the Indiana game?
Right before the half?
Right before the half. I don't remember what the score was. Because I'm think about
nothing
Georgia
happened.
Game right after half.
Correct.
They went and stole the field goal against Penn State right before the half.
Correct.
And made that thing kind of like, okay, it's not out of reach here. We heard Marcus at halftime yesterday, 7-point game. He said it 100 times.
Yep.
I don't know if Indiana was out of reach at halftime. I mean, I think you probably watching it thought it was, but I'm wondering what the scoreboard was and like how the flow of the game was going. But my point was going to be the 3 playoff games where, as you stated, situationally going into the locker room, coming out of the locker room, just big moments, and not either not letting a game get out of hand or making sure a game was still in reach, and then being able to find a way to go win it. We know what happened in at least 2 of those games.
Yes,
for Notre Dame.
Correct. It's like it matters. Like they win the margins. Like the middle 8 or the middle 4, depending on how you want to look at it. The first 4 minutes or the last 2 minutes of half, the first 2 minutes of the second half. It's mostly the middle 8 is how most coaches like to break it down. The last 4 first half, first 4 second half, like those are the areas that they have been dominant at times this year, and that's going to be an area that they have to win. But that's just, they might not have the ball. You know, that's not always determined. So
it was 17-3 at half. So
it was a lot to a little. Yeah, it wasn't an Indiana game. There was no factor. If anything, the other side, the end of game situation, they butchered like an onside kick and almost butchered second. But I digress. Like that I think is the most important thing as far as what Notre Dame can win and has to win to have a chance in this game. As far as individual matchups are concerned, there are a few, but I'll let you have the floor to begin with.
Where I think, if you wanted to go where I think Notre Dame can win from a position standpoint, a matchup standpoint, I think Notre Dame's defensive line can absolutely win.
They're not going to be able to win in a traditional way, though.
I might disagree with that. Specifically over on the right side, you and I have talked about it. You go back and watch Ohio State's offensive line and just in these playoffs, and things have gone well. Pass pro has been, I'll just say, pass pro has been really good. I would say pass pro has been like an A. But I think run game has been more B-, C+. But you're handing the ball to Travion or Quinshon Judkins, and Will Howard's been getting the ball out on time. So a lot of teams haven't had a chance. I mean, Texas collapsed the pocket a couple of times.
Yes.
And look at the majority of the runs. Like you're talking about listening to podcasts. I watched the show yesterday. We're talking about how Ohio State's been gutting teams up the middle all year and in the playoffs. And I was like, we ain't been watching the same thing. It happened against Texas a couple times later. Like there was one A-gap power that Quinshon hit, just got north and south that looked really good, but they're not living there.
No. And
I don't think they're going to live there against this group. Now, does Notre Dame need to move a little bit at certain points in time? Yeah. For me, the concern with the Ohio State run game would be Notre Dame's linebackers. And if they play underneath a little bit or take poor angles or get caught up in traffic, get into the edge, getting outside the tackle box, that could be a problem. But you got Xavier Watts that can come over there and maybe shut some of that down and help with that. And they're one of the best tackling teams I've seen. So they make up for it in different ways. But if you're just talking guy for guy, group for group, I think the Notre Dame D-line can win. Now, that's even complicated in and of itself because it's not just 4 guys. And you go have a discussion of, well, who's going to get those wins? Well, you've talked about, Bryce Young's going to be up there. RJ Oben will be there off the edge. Well, you also have, Jalen Sneed will walk down, and he'll be there off the edge. 27 will walk down, and he'll be kind of an edge defender at times. So it's a group that offers a lot of variety in different ways, but just guys for guys, I think that group can win. I think they can beat the Ohio State offensive line.
I think that's going to, if they can somehow win that matchup, and I do think it's the most gettable, let's be real, man. Ohio State, that is their biggest vulnerability, or at least it was. Michigan got them there. A couple other teams have given them fits up front. When Will Howard feels pressure, he becomes very human. Now, the problem, I think, with Michigan when compared to Notre Dame is I think Ohio State learned a lot about themselves in that game. And they say, we will no longer allow our offensive line to play a key role in are success or failure. And now they have played the last 3 games on the perimeter. And Notre Dame is going to go out there and play man coverage. That's what they do. They're not going to just give up paper cut after paper cut after paper cut. Like Texas was willing to give the free completions, the underneath stuff. I don't know if Notre Dame's going to be willing to do that. So if Ohio State's willing to allow the game to come back inside, love what you just described. I just don't think Ohio State's going to do it based on what they've done the last couple of weeks in the college football playoff.
It's totally fair. It is. And as we battle through flu season, make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus, 100 times more effective than standard air filters, 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. It's hard to stop a Trane. All right, we'll continue the conversation. Your feedback at Mac and Cube. You can text into the show, 205-834-9450. Call in, 800-239-9569 to discuss any direction of this roster breakdown and matchups between Ohio State and Notre Dame right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Thursday, January 16th, Jocks 94.5. Glad you're with us. 800-239-9569. You want to get in. Talking rosters, Notre Dame, Ohio State, how it's going to look, what it's going to be. I gave you my most gettable area for Notre Dame, Greg. I want you to give us yours here in just a moment. First, going to tell you about Gusty Goulis and the Gusty Goulis Group. If you're looking for a new home in the Birmingham metro area, Guys, it's got to be Gusty Goulas. Why? Served over 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Since 2012, recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. Brokered by eXp Realty. So Gusty knows where the inventory is going to be, knows where the buyers and sellers are, and wants to get you the most money for your home. You can just go to GustyGoulsGroup.com right now. Button at the top of the page. You can do this on your phone. Click that button, very little information, find out what Gusty Goulas believes your home is worth right now, and they're most likely going to be able to get it. Over 835-star Google reviews. He's investing in the latest technology to be able to help sell your home and get you in the best home possible. 205-542-1996. Google Gusty Goulas Group and see all those 5-star Google reviews, or just go to GustyGoulsGroup.com today and start packing. Where do you believe Notre Dame is at the, I don't want to say has the biggest advantage, because like you said, there's not a lot of this that we're going to look at and say, oh, advantage Notre Dame. What's most gettable for the Irish, in your opinion, in this matchup? I
think their running backs have an advantage over their linebackers, which is not, but the gap isn't as wide as it would be against most teams. I really like Ohio State's linebackers. I think they do a really good job. I think they're super athletic. I think they're physical.
Aggressive, too.
Yeah, they're not afraid. So I think that is one area that will be interesting, because Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price and Aeneas Williams, if we're going to include the freshman, all three of those guys are capable in the pass game. I think they're going to have to be very good in the pass game here. Screens, misdirection, stuff like that. But I think that's a matchup that can be won. I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 running backs on the field at one time. That's an area that I think can be won for sure. I would anticipate Caleb Downs spying Riley Leonard a lot. They've used that where they put him kind of in the middle of the defense, and he's kind of responsible for the quarterback. So I could see that being the way they kind of structure it. But I think these running backs against these linebackers can be advantage for Notre Dame if they make it one.
How can Mike Denbrock use that against Ohio State if they are going to play Caleb Downs that way? And I know it was more red zone, being closer to the line of scrimmage, like the toss sweep where he makes the play against Texas. You just think about how effective he can be when he is that close. And this is not a team that's just known for challenging people down the field. You and I have talked about Riley Leonard hitting a couple of those balls. I mean, there are some people that will sit there and tell you that it's non-existent, that they can't throw the ball down the field. They've done it. Is that the way? Is just finding more shot plays down the field? Is it tight end, stretch in the middle of the field? How do you think Denbrock can take advantage of an elite safety that is maybe playing a little bit too close to the line of scrimmage at times?
Well, the problem is, like, they'll drop him inside and they'll still keep their 2 high safety structure, and Caleb Downs will be kind of playing in like a 3 safety structure. You know, they kind of have 3 safeties on the field. They'll drop Hancock back. You got Ransom, number 8, Caleb Downs, number 2, and number 7 that are all kind of playing safety. Then you got Burke and Igbinosun, the 2 corners on the outside. They'll play man. So it's kind of it's a tough situation where they basically have one-on-ones on the outside. Those corners are locked up with one-on-ones with the guys that are outside. And then you have 9 guys playing against, in some cases, 7.
Yeah.
You know, and that becomes very tricky.
It almost looks like if you're in your car and driving, like an sort of an old school 4-3 that's apexed a little bit. Like the Mike linebacker is 10 yards off the ball. The other 2 are where they would normally be. And yeah, it's an
like a triangle.
Look.
Right. It's weird. And it allows the Caleb Downs. That's exactly how I'd play it with him. Like, put him in the middle of the field and let him erase.
Do everything.
Like, and that's 100%. What they've done. And it's really tough to try to attack. And I'm not sure I have the answers for it, to be honest with you. Like, I have an idea. It's going to have to be a lot of outbreaking routes. It's going to have to be Mitchell Evans on corner routes, on sail routes, moving the pocket, full misdirection, jet sweep to the left, or run fake to the left, boot the quarterback to the right, and you have a slow developing sail route or a corner route at 18 to 22 yards by the slot receiver or the tight end. Like, I think that's how you attack it. But
I do think some gap scheme run can have some impact against that, because he fits it pretty quick. And if he is playing it the way he played, let's say against Texas, and he fits it wrong, or maybe gets a little too aggressive, that's where you could bust one.
Yeah.
And we saw Penn State kind of maybe misfit one or two of those, and you're able to get some bigger runs later in the game. So it's not playing the same defense, obviously, but I think that's an area that Notre Dame needs to at least try to lean on to force him to say, all right, you going to play this straight up? Because if not, we think we can grab some yards from you.
There's no denying that they're going to have to run the ball. I think gap scheme can be good. I don't know about you. I'm not sure if I feel as good about them going stretch zone. I don't know if I feel as good about them going perimeter runs. I think with Ohio State, you kind of got to go right at them.
Not with the way those linebackers are playing.
Yeah, I think you got to go right at them. I mean, I just think back to the critical down and distance against Texas, 2nd and 1 from the 1. And you try to go laterally, and those guys blow it up. I just think you got to go right at them. And
I think outside of 91, they're a little bit gettable. Like it's not an impossible task.
But 91 will guess. Like he's not,
no doubt.
Contrary to popular belief, he's not this run stuffing defender on the interior of the defensive line.
He is the most anchor-ish that they have, but he does not operate
anchor,
as
but that's
an anchor
not
all the time.
him.
Yeah,
like just because you can doesn't mean that's what you do. He is very capable of anchoring, but that is not who he is at his core.
I think people who watch it and pay attention to it would definitely agree. All right, we
got to watch it though.
More time
you can't
on
just
this.
take other people's word for it.
Bobby Carpenter is with us at 8:00. He'll give us the Ohio State perspective and the Marcus Freeman perspective. But when we come back, we'll get to our top 3. Before that, Greg, tell our listeners about Shannara Flooring.
Shannara Flooring and Food does an amazing job of creating a contractor company. Obviously, they're flooring, so they specialize in the flooring. But it's just hard to find contractors that you trust sometimes, especially when it's something that is as significant as replacing your floors. It's a big decision. It's an expensive decision. So you want to go with a group that you can trust. And you know that with the product that Shannara Flooring has used forever, they're a preferred Shaw dealer. You know you're getting top of the line quality, but now you know you're going to have top of the line quality installation as well. Whether it's upgrading your old carpet, whether it's upgrading to hardwood across the board, you can rely on Fu and his team at Shannara Flooring in Homewood. So when it's time for new flooring, ask yourself, call who? Call Fu. Call him direct at 205-518-6423 and see all the new styles for 2025 at shannaraflooring.com.
All right, when we come back, top 3, what will it be today? Find out next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:51 Thursday, January 16th. Jocks 94.5. Going to move on to the top three here in just a moment. JocksFM.com. App Store, you can find the Jocks app. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945. Before we move to that, if you're looking to move out of your home, Greg, who do you need to call?
That'd be Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. They need your whole home packed up and moved. Your company headquarters moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange a living room. These guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchase need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. It's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
Top three sports. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. What's on tap for our top three today, Damian?
Cole, you actually kind of brought it up earlier, and it didn't really kind of hit me until I really started thinking about it when you said that Kareem Jackson was one of the more underrated players in the Saban era. So our top three today, who are the top three most underrated players in the Nick Saban era at Alabama?
Who were the other edge defenders when Upshaw was there?
Well, it would have been like 2010.
There's a couple names. There's a guy that I can't think of his name right now that if you said his name, it'll pop up, who just did. He wasn't a good pass rusher, but just nasty at the line of scrimmage. Got no credit for anything. 11 sounds right. 11, 12 maybe. I'm going to have to go to like tackles for loss. Maybe look that up. Kareem Jackson is going to be number one for me, most likely. I'll be able to probably, it's not, CFP stats not going to go back that far. I will say one that should be in the mentions is Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Guy did a lot of dirty work inside. Didn't make like all the plays Quentin Williams did, but you talk about letting linebackers run free and be able to make plays, do different things. Like he was the guy that I feel like gets no credit. Like everybody goes nuts about Raekwon Davis and all that, but like Dalvin Tomlinson helped the team win.
Damian Square, is that who you're thinking of?
No.
Damian Square was good.
No, it's I'll find
Adrian
it.
Hubbard?
What's his name?
Adrian Hubbard?
No. Mm-mm. I'll find it.
Josh Chapman?
Nope.
Chap Dog?
Yeah.
Definitely not off the edge.
He could slide out there.
I'll get to it in a second. He got drafted. I think he played in the NFL for a minute. But there were actually a couple of those guys that were just didn't get enough credit for being out there and doing different things.
Ed Stinson?
Ed Stinson was tough, man.
He had a big head.
He was tough.
He was
Heavy
a handful
hands,
on the edge.
Like just Ed Stinson might be the guy I'm thinking of, honestly. But
Ed Stinson was a good player.
you guys go with yours. Those are
Denzel
two.
Duvall? He was a load on the edge.
He was one that was a problem to handle. He had a bunch of those. You guys had a bunch of those guys for like a couple of years in a row that just nobody really talked about because the linebackers were making all the plays and the D tackles were making a bunch of plays, but just made things happen. And they all waited. They all waited like 4 years to play. I think Ed Stinson's who I'm thinking of.
Ed Stinson would be a good one.
He was 41.
It might have been 42.
42, something like that. I think that's who I'm thinking of.
He was a good player.
Those are my three. Like Dylan Lee did it like his last year. And he didn't play as much as the other guys did, but like he made plays his last year. Like it helped
Says
other
he was
people.
number 97.
I don't
doesn't
remember
feel
Ed
right.
Stinson is 97. No.
He got 5 years in the league. 14, 15, 16, 17, 8. 4 years in the league. Still pretty sporty. For a guy that's like underrated.
Yeah, those will be my three right out of the gate.
Gregory?
There's so many good ones.
You ain't lying.
I'd probably go back a little ways. Guys that I think are probably underappreciated, even still to this day, probably still underappreciated. Like CJ Mosley is probably still underappreciated considering how good he was.
Just look what he's done in the league.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he was a monster. I think along my offensive line, man, we had a couple war daddies that were just dang good. Like William Vallejo's still to me is like one of my favorite teammates, one of my best friends in college, obviously. So like that, maybe I'm a little biased there, But like all the praise went to Barrett Jones and to Chance Warmack and to DJ Fluker and like all those guys. And I'm not saying it wasn't deserved. I'm just saying like Vallejos was there for 3 years. Pretty dang good for
going to the U,
and,
by the way. We hadn't talked about that.
What's that? William?
Going to the U, yeah.
Is he?
Yep.
Like, I mean, a lot of folks I think a lot of people on that offensive line got a ton of credit and deservedly so. But man, William was always,
enough.
He never got enough, I thought. I mean, James Carpenter, left tackle. Like, I mean, I don't know. There's a bunch of good ones, man. We need way more than a segment for that.
Yep. We'll finish it up later. Bobby Carpenter next. Eight o'clock, hour number 2 underway. Thursday, January 16th. Jocks 94.5. Watch live on YouTube. Just search Jocks 945, and you can see us in studio there each and every morning. Going to go to Bobby Carpenter, Sirius XM, ESPN. Played his college football at Ohio State. Played in the NFL for a long time. Bobby, first and foremost, this is not why we had you on, but I just remember that you were a longtime Dallas Cowboy. What do you believe is next for the Cowboys head coaching spot?
Gosh, I wish I had some idea. You know, I've seen Jerry do this a couple of times, and he's, to my knowledge, at least in recent history, is the first coach to ever have two, or head owner to have two coaches just have expiring contracts. Not fire them, just let them run out. And so they obviously did that with Garrett McCarthy. The reason they hired McCarthy is they wanted an experienced head coach, someone who had won and had success, and so that's why they went with him. And now like people were talking about everyone they're looking at, and I'm like, I have no idea. Like they said they didn't want the learning curve before, and I frankly think, this. Jerry Jones, I think he's 82 years old. This might be his final coaching hire, and I know he wants a Super Bowl in the worst way. And so, do you go with a guy like Dion, who's been a good coach in college, but brief experience there? Is there a more experienced NFL coach? People were talking about Kellen Moore, who's their former OC, and has been good as an OC, but still, like as a head coach, like there's a big learning curve for that. But I have no clue.
I really, just as someone that likes to consume daytime sports television, I hope it doesn't happen. I'm not sure our television sets can handle the amount of coverage that would receive. It would be aggressive, but I know it'd move the needle. That's for sure. Just as a guy that played for the Cowboys, what is that like to just constantly be operating under the microscope and know that every day when you turn on ESPN, there's going to be 15-minute segment about either how good your quarterback is or how bad your quarterback is based on how he played the week before?
Yeah, as a defensive player, it wasn't terrible. My locker is by Tony's, and he was a good buddy, and it stinks to see that. And, thankfully we were winning there more than we were losing. Now, we didn't have quite the playoff success that we would have liked, but you're just always inundated. You don't and plus, that was my first place, Greg, that I went. So I really didn't know any different. You come from a big school in college where we had a lot of people on the beat at Ohio State. Now, not like, you see it obviously with the Cowboys, but it was pretty good. And then all of a sudden you get there and I'm like, okay, this is just what it is. And then all of a sudden I go to like Detroit and I'm like, wow, this is a lot different. Like it's not near the exposure. And so then I guess kind of recalibrating your expectations. But if it's all you knew, it wasn't that bad.
Bobby Carpenter joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline on not to talk Cowboys, but to talk college football. You can hear him on Sirius XM. He'll be covering the national championship game there. All right, so you played with Marcus Freeman. You guys still buddies today. How close is what you see now as the Notre Dame head coach to what you were playing with in college as a fellow linebacker?
It's he's authentic to himself. I mean, the guy was always kind of a pretty boy. So, yeah, I mean, he looks great on the sideline and, gets his hair cut 3 times a day and, all that stuff. Like, he's awesome. I love Marcus. He was my backup for a year, backed up AJ's next year. Going to play with him for like 2.5 years, basically. And he was my brother's age. So, like, going through recruiting and everything with all that with both of them, getting a chance to get to know him. It's just phenomenal guy, great husband, father. It was everything you wanted. Notre Dame, he's really leaned in and embraced that tradition. I got a chance to go up there with XM and talk, and it was, with the Florida State game, and we talked for about an hour and a half on Friday night, just sitting in his office. And it was awesome to see like what he's done there and how he's built this. And honestly, it reminds me a lot of our former coach, Jim Tressel, with how he goes about his business. And the same thing with like Luke Fickell, all those guys that have kind of coached for him, that kind of embodied that. And then they put, as you have to, you put your own spin on it based upon your personality. But he's a young guy, obviously. He's 38. He connects, or 39 now. He just had his birthday the day after they won. Connects well with the players and has done a pretty good job, I think, as we talked about that with the Cowboys, being a first-time head coach. There's going to be some bumps. You're going to have some bad losses. And honestly, like, how I always judge coaches, it's like, how do you respond in some of your worst moments? And, after that Northern Illinois game this year, they started getting things right. You saw that offense coalesce, and they sat there with Mike Denbrock and, figured out, like, hey, what do we do well? What does our quarterback do well? What does our offense do well? Let's lean into that. It may not be traditional. It may not look how other people think it should, but we're going to move the football. They have one of the best defenses in college football. They're great on special teams, as witnessed in the semifinal. And they don't beat themselves. And despite the 2 turnovers early, they found a way to kind of get back into it and battle. They don't give up. They've got a great culture. And Notre Dame, I think, finally realized like they've got their guy for hopefully the long-term future.
What do you make of what Ryan Day's had to endure the last month and change since losing to Michigan? Now flipping the script, everyone's on his side now. I mean, even if you have no rooting interest, it's like, man, I just want it to happen for Ryan Day. He's a good dude. and I think deserves a lot of credit for how consistent Ohio State's been under his leadership. So how do you kind of assess where he's at in the court of public opinion?
You know, it's interesting. Like, there's still people in Ohio, you know, that I don't know if they say they don't care if he wins a national championship, you know, because he hasn't beaten Michigan, you know, 4 times in a row now. And I don't know what to say to those people. It seems like an irrational argument. And some people, they like to live out there, and they don't want to come back to, you know, reality land. They want to stay where they're at, and there's no luring them back in. So I appreciate that. But I do think a lot of people have got a chance to see, and, you know, when you're going through these emotional runs and playing these big games and guys are making big plays for you, you know, people ask me about, you know, former teammates of mine or coaches, or what do you think this guy's like? And I go, well, you want to know what a player or what a coach is? It truly is. I go, ask people that played or coached for them, you know, and we're around them, and they'll tell you. And sometimes what they don't say is as important as what they do. But, you know, to a man, like everybody that, you know, plays for Ryan Day, and it's been evident from, you know, Will Howard, who's been here for a year, you know, to, you know, their young receivers, Brandon Ennis, who was super passionate about, you know, how good Ryan was, to Jack Sawyer, who's making a, you know, game-changing play, winning play in a huge moment. And those guys are talking about how much this win means for them, but also for their head coach, and knowing that the heat he's been on and how much they care about him and just the connectivity. And so I've been incredibly happy for Ryan. He's a great coach. He's really a great man as well. And so it's tough when you don't necessarily have success in some of those rivalry games. But the last 3 games, I think, has kind of personified and exemplified what you want as a head coach at Ohio State.
Bobby Carpenter, former Ohio State linebacker, now with SiriusXM, ESPN, joining us on the Bias Right Hotline. We were talking a little bit earlier, Bobby, of what areas could be gettable for Notre Dame when you start looking at the matchups with Ohio State. It's guy for guy, talent for talent. It's not going to be much, and obviously we know that's not how they've won a lot of games anyway. But what area do you view as maybe concerning from a matchup perspective for Ohio State Monday night?
Well, Notre Dame's got, you know, a really good defensive line and a really good offensive line. Now they're beat up a little bit, but they're beat up going to the Penn State game. You still watch their guys make some big plays when they needed to. Like, Notre Dame's defense is good, and they'll take the football away. You know, they're just not going to give you yards. Like, they will not concede an inch. And they've talked about how they're going to continue to play man. We'll see how much they blend in zone and what that split ultimately looks like. You know, so they've got an opportunity there. And then you look at offensively, like, they do a great job converting on third down. Part of it is they put themselves in convertible third downs. You know, they're not great in third and long, but they don't live there very often. And Riley Leonard, coming into the Penn State game, he had 21 conversions on third and fourth down. It was 15 more than anyone else on their team. Like, he's their short yardage, medium yardage guy, and he has a nose for finding the yard marker and getting across it. And so whether or not, you know, he rushes for 80 yards or, you know, 18, the yards matter because they're big yards and big moments, and he keeps the drives alive. And so Notre Dame can stay on the field. They can, you know, pound the rock, maintain possession, and then they'll probably, you know, have to try to, you know, have, I wouldn't say a gadget, but they'll have something for you in the kick game. You know, Marcus embodies a lot of Coach Tress, and, you know, the superior special units, we saw it last week, you know, on full display. You saw it against Georgia. Like, they do a good job in the kick game, and there'll be something else there for you as well.
How would you assess just kind of the running quarterback aspect of it, and how that could maybe temper the aggressiveness of Ohio State's defense? Because they're not an overwhelmingly aggressive group. They're not going to blitz like crazy. But you can't really be relentless in your pass rush either when you have a guy like Riley Leonard that can take off in scramble situations. So how do you think they'll play structurally against Notre Dame's offense?
Well, I mean, they played 2 teams, you know, that had quarterbacks that ran a lot or were very adept runners, in Nico Yamaliava at Tennessee, and then Dylan Gabriel, who had some big runs, big touchdown run against them in the first matchup at Oregon. So they've kind of dealt with this. I think you can be aggressive. You just have to be smart in how you go about it and making sure that you're always in your rush lanes, and sometimes run, you know, some 4-man with some games, run some 3-man with some spy, maybe some 5 and 6 man pressure, and just mix it up and blend it. The reality is with that is you're probably not going to be in a huge pass rush game because Notre Dame, they don't throw the ball a ton, and they're not going to put themselves in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. So this team, if you want to get in those situations, it's more about being really good against the run up front on 1st and 2nd down.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Got to find a way to be able to make that go. When you look at Ohio State's offense, there are going to be multiple ways that they can attack this defense. They'll play a lot of man coverage. Can Notre Dame live there? Can they survive there? I feel like that's where a lot of people look at this and say, yeah, they're good at it, but they can't have success against this team.
I mean, we'll find out. They've come out and said that's what they do, and they're beat up. You lose Riley Mills. Part of being great at man is having great pressure because you don't want to have your guys playing the whole time. It's tight coverage, but it will come unglued, especially if the quarterback can buy time. So, them being a little bit beat up front, they've got a next man up mentality. They've got a really good defensive line and some good depth. I mean, if I were them, if I'm Al Golden, I'm gonna do what we do, but I'm gonna have some change-ups in there. It's not going to be a static picture. And I'm going to make sure that we do run some zone. There'll be times and some opportunities where, hey, we'll get after them. We're going to let our guys play. But then also, I saw what Texas did. I might do some of that so that I'm not giving up big plays and see if Ohio State has the patience to dink and dunk and run the ball down the field without hitting those home runs.
Bobby, we appreciate the time. What emotionally, what's it going to be like for you on Monday night? Is it just you don't really care about Marcus, Ohio State, or how's that going to operate?
I love Marcus, and I talked to him at Notre Dame when I was up there visiting him. I'm like, dude, I want you to win every game unless you're playing the Buckeyes. And he laughed and smiled because I get it. That's who it is. I talked to our former coach Jim Tressel, and it's kind of the same thing because he's got a couple guys up there, including Marcus that he knows. And he's like, it's Ohio State, it's our school. And, so I want Marcus, like I said, I was happy when they won because at least I'm like, well, in case whatever happens in this Texas game, I feel good now. But I'm like, if Ohio State wins, and that's going to be very, very tough. And we got to this point. It's great for Marcus. I'm happy for him. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Buckeyes win. But, yeah, it's going to be hard. I'll say hi to him before the game. I love the guy. He's one of my favorites. So, we'll see. But I'm not hoping that he hoists that trophy by any stretch.
We appreciate you taking some time today. It's a really cool background, and I know it's going to be a fun watch for you on Monday. Thanks for hopping on with us.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. You have a good one.
There you go. Bobby Carpenter, Sirius XM. He'll be covering the national championship game there. Former Ohio State linebacker. I did like how he pointed out that Marcus Freeman was his backup. Just making sure we got
that's understood.
Yeah, just got that out there.
Marcus had number 1 though. Wearing number 1 as a linebacker back then is pretty fire.
Yeah, that'll work. So not a lot of guys get away with it or even able to do it. So. Good stuff there from Bobby Carpenter talking national championship game. We'll continue a little bit of the roster breakdown. A lot of feedback coming from you guys from our top 3 question today. I want to go back to that on the other side. Most underrated player of the Saban era. We'll just go through a couple that you guys are thrown at us. We'll talk about those, maybe give you an idea of who you think should be there, who you want to be there. But first, G-Mac, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Bromberg's is a great spot. And right now, when you walk in the door, one of their 2 locations, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. They go the extra mile because when you shop at Bromberg's, you are shopping for something precious, something special. Whether it's a natural diamond or a unique, one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry, you understand the second you walk in the door that you're going to buy something that might be in your family for multiple generations. Go and do it at a place in which you're going to get the sales staff to take great care of you. And you're going to have a tremendous time when you go in there, man. It's just always a good time. It's good to visit. Even if you don't buy anything, it's always great to visit and good to see good people that care very much, not just about you, but about your family as well. Always ask about my kids, always asking about what's going on at work, things like that. Very, very grateful to the relationships that I have at Bromberg's. I know you guys will feel the exact same treatment the second you walk in the door. One of their 2 locations, Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
All right, when we come back, more on your most underrated Alabama player of the Saban era. Next, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, 8:19, Thursday, January 16th, Jocks 94.5. Nice win for Sanford, Bucky McMillan's group last night. 75-74 against Mercer. Sanford gets to 15-3 on the season, 5-0 in conference. Mercer goes to 9-9. I wasn't able to watch all this game, but you look at just kind of how things played out. Sanford probably fortunate to get this one. Now, Mercer shot 37% from the floor, but they were 9 of 29 from 3, 19 of 24 from the free throw line. Not to be outdone by Sanford, 16 of 27 from the free throw line. Ahmad Robinson for Mercer, 12 of 14 from the free throw line. He had 29 points in the game. Just three Sanford players in double figures. Some foul trouble early. Riley Osenpach, he got in foul trouble, only played 7 minutes of the game. Sanford's best big. So, but still fortunate to be able to get it after going 5 of 20 from behind the three-point line. They were out-rebounded in the game, 43-39. But, hey, you find different ways to win. And that's a nice one for Bucky McMillan's group to be able to sneak that one out and get that W. We're going to talk a little bit more about the most underrated players of the Saban era. A lot of folks chiming in. AC's dad tweets into the show. Kareem Jackson, Vinny Sinceri, Kevin Norwood. Robbie tweets in. Anthony Jennings, Ryan Anderson, Bama pass rushers. Ryan Anderson, you talk about heavy-handed. He was one of those guys, too. Alex Page tweets in. Are you thinking of the guy who was drafted by the Panthers? Also wore 42. I think we figured out who it was. Russell Terry tweets in. Pagan was really good. Whit Strong tweets in Lorenzo Washington. So a lot of sort of different names. GMAC coming in there on the Twitter feed of most underrated players of the Saban era. That was our top 3 question of the day.
There's a bunch of them. I mean, you can go down the list. We had someone text into the show, TJ Yeldon. I think that's a good one. It's
a really good one because if you just think about guys that talk about Bama backs of the Saban era, he is nowhere near the top of the list for a lot of people, and he had some massive plays in an Alabama uniform.
Massive. Bradley Bozeman was another guy.
Really good player.
Came across that is now, I think he was like a 6th-round pick and has ultimately now carved out a pretty nice little role. DeAndre
really
White
nice.
was really good. Marquise Mays was excellent. Probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves because so much of the attention is paid towards Julio, and understandably so. But Mays and Darius Hanks, my 2 wide receivers, in addition to Julio, were great players in and of their own right. So there's a ton. I'm not sure there is a wrong answer, but it's really just trying to decide which ones.
Yeah, there are a lot of them and a lot of good ones. Nick Baldwin tweets in Tim Williams, who more of a third down specialist, and obviously had a lot of noise, a lot of discussion around him for other reasons. Kenny Swartz tweets in Trent Richardson. I'm not sure I can get on board with that one. I feel like Trent got a lot of credit. And deservingly so. Great player.
Are there more underrated players or overrated players? That has nothing to do with Trent, by the way. I'm just thinking about that because I had a buddy text me. He's like, I feel like there's not really that many underrated players, but there's an awful lot of overrated players. I was like, really? I've never really thought about it that way. I feel like guys that got credit guys that get credit kind of get it for a reason.
The reason I think people say that is because of their college career versus their NFL career. Right. And that's why they would say that, which if you're talking about underrated player of the Saban era, it really has nothing to do with their NFL career. Now, that is a big part of the conversation when I brought up Kareem Jackson as a guy just not getting enough credit. Greg Holsey tweets in, I think this is a good one, and I think you'll appreciate this one, Greg. Underrated Saban player Colin Peak at tight end. Like, not a ton of targets, made some really big catches in some big games, and obviously just a really good player.
Yeah, good player. Not the guy you want blocking at the end of the line of scrimmage, stretch zone. But Preston Dial made him right. Like, Preston Dial was kind of the H-back hammer. Peak was kind of the receiver. I mean, nothing wrong with that. I think it's actually a pretty good way to do it. And Colin gave effort in the line of scrimmage for sure, but he was a very good player. I mean, I think our offense, like, people will look at it and think, oh, okay, well, Julio and Mark. There were a lot of good players. Now, not everybody went on to have great NFL careers. Like Drew Davis, our right tackle, William Vallejos, our center. Like, not outrageous NFL myself, not outrageous NFL careers, but like good players in their own right. And I think Peak, Dial, Marquise Mays, Darius Hanks, like a bunch of guys kind of fit that bill.
Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson if Mike Johnson doesn't break his leg, maybe his NFL career is a little different, but he was a great player. He's an All-American, so I don't think he would necessarily fall into
But I don't feel like a lot of people talk about him like
class.
They don't talk about him like they do Cam Williams or Jedrick Wills or, some of the other offensive linemen that came through.
Wasn't a first-round pick and didn't have 5 stars.
Yeah.
So, if you have 5 stars, you're automatically amazing. You know that.
Lex tweets in, Cyrus Jones should never be forgotten definition of a gamer.
I can't even speak. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I don't remember.
Kyle tweets in, at Mac and Cube, underrated Saban player, Greg McElroy.
Hey.
And I think I was probably a little underrated, but I would feel like you're tooting your own horn. A lot of people think I stunk. So I guess it depends on what you think. You think I stunk? I don't think I stunk. So I guess that would qualify as underrated. I suppose.
You were good as a backup in the Iron Bowl.
In 08? Oops.
Whichever year that was.
Sorry.
Gotta let that cannon loose.
Sorry, Tubbs.
Chugged it deep.
Sorry, Senator Tubbs.
We got Kenyon Drake. Ronnie and Milbert texting Kenyon Drake.
Good player.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tough spot.
Didn't get enough run.
He was just behind Derrick Henry and broke his leg. That's a tough spot to be in. Doesn't mean he wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
He had a good NFL career, too. I feel like he stuck up there for a couple years. Running back's hard, man.
After what everybody has tweeted in and texted in the conversation, I would probably adjust my list and have TJ Yeldon on it. The catch against LSU, massive play. You could give him a lot of credit for one of the Iron Bowls and what he did in that game. Maybe not the overall production of a Mark Ingram, a Derrick Henry, even a Trent Richardson, but guy deserves a lot of credit. Did a lot. Made a lot of big plays.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, Greg, a pretty crowded backfield.
Very.
And sometimes it wasn't your day. Sometimes the other guy had the hot hand or was going to be the feature back that day. So, but I think he was. God, I remember watching him. I called one of his high school championship game. I think he threw a touchdown, caught a touchdown, ran a touchdown, and returned a touchdown. And I think he recovered an onside kick in that game.
Like pound for pound, like football player, like great football player.
Unbelievable.
You know what I mean? Just a great football player. It was a little bit like Josh Jacobs before Josh Jacobs. Not as much of a power guy, but like super versatile. Can do a lot of different things.
I just remember sitting there. I was calling that game going, Auburn had this kid and he's going to Bama. Like, good Lord. Yeah. And this kid would have probably come to Auburn and could touch the ball 50 times a game.
Exactly.
Because they needed him.
Like going through it, I think the best 3 that I've now kind of looked through, like a bunch of the years. Dalvin Tomlinson is 100% on the list.
He's on mine.
I don't know how you don't have him on the list as an underrated guy because no one thinks. Think about the defensive line that he had to play on. Jonathan Allen, A'Shaun Robinson, Deron Payne, Jaron Reed.
Pretty good. All still starting in the NFL.
Just fine. Just please get me on the field for 20 snaps.
Can I get a rep?
Can I get a rep?
Can I just get a rep, please? Anything. So he was super handful.
I remember when I talked to Kevin Steele. He was the DC there, one of his early stints, and we were meeting with him, and I brought up Dalvin Tomlinson, and his face just lit up, and he was just like, "Thank you." Thank you for talking about that kid. Like no one talks about that kid. And like all he does is what we ask him to do. And like all he does is help the other people succeed.
Yep. Great player, great teammate. Like just doesn't care, doesn't need the notoriety, like doesn't need to go viral on TikTok. Like just wants to go in there and eat blocks and let guys flow freely over the top. Like he was just a phenomenal football player.
No doubt.
And just a, for one of a kind guy, like awesome. Others, gosh,
I was trying to think of some other linemen that deserve like Bozeman's a
like
great
Bozeman
one.
to me is probably of the guys that were super elite, all American caliber players. No one talks about Bradley Bozeman ever. He was a great player.
Kyle Tanner tweets in, got to have Levi Wallace in there too. Also would have Eddie Jackson, even though he probably got a lot of recognition. Yeah, Levi Wallace was a walk-on, right?
Yes.
I'm going to say he's a walk-on and ended up getting drafted and playing in the NFL.
He was corner, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he played some safety also. But, a guy who, great kid. I can remember meeting with him when he was at Alabama. And, yeah, it's I don't think there's any doubt he deserves to be in there.
Yeah.
So we got a throwback, Javier Arenas.
Dude, you talk about football player, man.
Yeah,
Just
I mean, he was
football
5'8".
That's all he was. Football player.
5'8", playing high-level D1 football is big time.
Everybody talks about your play action in the Iron Bowl, but that punt return is what changed the game. His punt return is what flipped the field there. Because if he doesn't return that punt, I think the game's over. And
No, we just have more yards. Eat up.
Attaboy. Of course. Attaboy.
No, Javi is a great pound-for-pound football player. I mean, awesome.
he's one of those guys when you watch him play, you're like, he could probably play just about anything. Like,
Yeah, he could play probably any
receiver, running
position.
back,
Yeah.
safety. Like,
Didn't
obviously
really
didn't have
matter.
the size, but just a football player, man.
He's a little guy, no doubt, small guy. So he'd been a little limited from a size standpoint, but I mean, he could have played anything, inside, outside, press, zone.
I don't remember the
eyes.
kind of run he got. I don't remember how people. I'm trying to think back, like how people talked about him.
People
if
loved
they-
him.
Yeah, I know. I just don't. I'm like properly rated or not. I don't know if he was underrated, but I know he deserves a lot of credit for what kind of player he was. He was fun to watch. He's a really good player. Our Darius Stewart, Deontay Brown coming in via Twitter.
Our Darius Stewart.
Well, I mean, he carried the sledgehammer around like, yay. I don't know.
Are Darius Stewart the receiver?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't make my list.
He blocked.
Christian Miller, Mac Wilson coming
No.
in as well. We've talked about Tim Williams. That's another one that's coming in. And then Johnny Brink tweets in, since y'all talk about TV shows to watch during the offseason, the football team in the Landman is, of course, Perriman High School.
Seeing the shift here as I'm going through the years. I'm seeing the shift here from like a lot of team guys like
Is he listening
Dalvin.
to yesterday's show right now?
Maybe so. He might be. I'm seeing like a slight shift here from like the Dalvin Tomlinson era, which is like the most unselfish era in the history of, just unselfish dudes everywhere, to slight shift as things have moved along here. I won't tell you what year I'm in.
A lot of me guys.
Starting to notice a bit of a change, and now I'm starting to think like, oh, okay, this lines up.
We got another Kevin Norwood. I don't know if I would view
Norwood
him as
was a good
underrated.
player.
He did some good things.
He was a good player. I mean, I don't know. I think he's probably properly rated. Like, I think he was a good player. I don't know if I would necessarily go as far as say he was underrated, because he was the number one wide receiver there for a couple of years. You know, like him and Kenny Bell were like 1 and 2 there for a couple of years. So
Bill, hadn't heard that name in a while.
yeah, I mean, I don't think Norwood is underappreciated.
Who was the receiver who I think was still there Saban's first year? Wore 22, caught a bunch of deep balls.
Christian Jones.
No.
DJ Hall?
DJ Hall?
DJ Hall.
Not
He deserved to
underrated.
be in there.
That was a throwback.
Okay, hang on. He should be playing on the 2019 team. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're thinking of a
He
Jai
should
Hall.
be playing on 2022. Yeah.
Jai
Not
Hall in
related.
there.
Yeah.
Most didn't live up to expectations Saban team all time. Ajay Hall.
Oh, man.
Top of the list.
Is he?
Needs to be up there.
I'll tell you
spring game All-American, though.
I'll tell you what's funny is like I still think he was underrated because he got banged up and probably didn't have the run, and it led to Smitty winning the Heisman and all that stuff. Like Waddle to me still was underrated in college because Waddle was always like the number 4 receiver, wasn't really polished, like not really your typical like, oh, this will be our go-to guy on third down. But it's like every time they threw it in his direction, good things happened. But he was always kind of buried behind Mechie and Devontae. I mean, gosh,
He was there with Judy for a minute too, right?
Yeah, Judy was there at the same time. That was in 2020, I believe. Like they just had so many guys and Ruggs. I mean, you had a bunch of guys that were really good, and Waddle probably just never got the
Targets.
due that
didn't
he
get the targets.
deserved.
Yeah.
Because
Think about how
he
many
was
quick
not the
throws
most polished receiver.
The most quick throws he turned into either explosive or just really good gains.
His average yards per catch, his freshman year was 18. His sophomore year was 17, and his final year was 21.
I mean, but also benefited from having those other guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's going to make things just a little bit easier to be able. You're not seeing a lot of bracket double coverage with those other guys on the team. So there's a lot of good names out there, though. I mean,
A lot of good names.
a lot of good names that
Kind of
deserves
fun.
some
It's
run.
fun having the exercise, going back through it, and seeing guys that you hadn't thought about in a long time. It's fun. There's so many good players. I mean, so many good players that were probably, pretty seriously underrated.
Like we got a Reggie Ragland coming in, and I'm like,
Oh, he was an
I'm not going
animal.
underrated
Yeah,
there.
right.
I feel like Reggie was highly rated, highly talked about, discussed often, made plays. You know, one of the more bigger physical linebackers in the Saban era. And once again, in a similar spot, Greg, that you're talking about with Waddle. I mean, look at the guys that were there his first couple of years. Like he couldn't come in as a freshman and just play.
Yeah.
Because he had big time guys in front of him. Made the most of his opportunity when he got it. So I don't.
Ooh, I got one for you. Brandon Dedrick. Someone said Lorenzo Washington, RIP. But Brandon Dedrick was also a defensive end on that 2008, 2009 team. Dude, Dedrick was a handful. He played a while in the league too. Dedrick, yeah, he was up there, 5 years. Pretty good.
We got Eddie Lacy coming in.
Not underrated. Great
I don't
player.
know if
Gets
I'd
the
go
credit he
underrated there.
deserves.
Absolutely.
You know who is still underrated? Like still, people will never appreciate how good he was Dante Hightower. Like that dude, he was the best player on the team as a true freshman. Like think about that. The guy tore his ACL in 2009, and that was his true sophomore year. Had he not torn his ACL that year, dude, he was rushing the passer. I mean, he was 250 pounds off the edge, best pass rusher by a mile, off the ball linebacker tandem alongside Rolando. Now Rolando was more instinctive for sure at that time, but Dante was a complete freak show. I mean,
I will never
total freak show.
I don't care what happened in any real games or anything. I believe it was Fluker that he hit the Reggie White hump move on in the spring game and threw him like 5 yards. And I was just like, holy hell, where do you play him? Like, because I would want him there, like rushing the passer if he can do those things.
He was unbelievable. Like to the point we had to take him off the field. Like we had NFL players on our offensive line. We had to take him off the field as a true sophomore in 2-minute drills because we couldn't get any reps. It's one of the biggest disappointments ever that 09 team, I know we went on to win the national championship, so how big of a disappointment is it? I don't know. But to not see Dante Hightower at his alongside Rolando.
Yeah, just be able to go.
Is just insane. And while Corey Reamer, Eric Anders, Courtney Upshaw, like we had great players that were capable replacements. Chavis Williams played a lot in that role, but it was kind of a group of people that filled that void that Dante was supposed to play. But on third down, when he slid down to the end of the line of scrimmage, no one saw that. But good Lord, it was game, set, and match.
Little did we know we would have Corey Reamer on our TV monitors weekly giving us banking advice
on Tuesdays
in Birmingham. Love it.
Money Tuesday, baby.
There it is. All right, when we come back, we will continue that conversation and talk a little bit more transfer portal. A couple other names that have popped up, specifically some quarterbacks that I want to ask Greg about. We'll do that right after this on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 800-239-9569. You want to get in on that Alabama conversation, talk some transfer portal news here in just a moment. A lot happening. We've had our roster breakdown to a certain extent. Ohio State, Notre Dame. We hit a little bit more of that. Wimp Sanderson coming up at 9. Ryan Harris does color commentary for Notre Dame Radio. Super Bowl champion for the Broncos. He'll join us at 9:30 today as well. A little bit of a distraction maybe for Ohio State, Greg, as walk-on Caden Davis has been dismissed from the team, defined as TikTok star.
That's the reason for his dismissal?
I don't know if it's been clarified as the reason, but yeah.
Hang on, stand by. Oh, walk on. Yep, not worried about it. What's with these walk-ons trying to get clout on, I play ball. He wear number 61 though. Oof.
He has 276, almost 77,000 followers on the soon-to-be dead TikTok.
That's awesome, though. I mean, it's great. I got no problem with that. But
how many reps in a game?
I don't know.
I hadn't seen the tape.
When you wear 61, you're a spare.
Really? He does have a TikTok video, a look inside his apartment's Lego collection.
No. Show me the the card collection. Then we can get to that point.
He has a look inside Ohio State's lacrosse locker room.
Why was he kicked off the team?
I don't know the answer to that.
Do you think it has something to do with TikTok?
He had to have posted something, wouldn't you think? Maybe it was his Eiffel Tower Lego that he did in his apartment.
Yeah.
Dweeb.
Well, does he play lacrosse too? Because he's like, all of his stuff is lacrosse posts.
I don't know.
Unboxing my STX lacrosse gear. Yeah, that's one I'm going to go watch. How many views?
What if it was
21,000 people watched him unbox a lacrosse stick?
Bro,
what are we doing?
Erosion of society. You're the one that has TikTok. Don't be mad at us.
How I got 100 plus brand partnerships at Ohio State as a football walk-on.
We've seen this.
Okay.
We've seen this before.
Here's the partnerships. He's at Lego, PlayStation, Crumble cookies, Circle K, Chipotle, Hollister. That's still a thing?
Guess so.
I did not know that.
They're teenagers somewhere.
STX, Beef, Tanger. Who else you got? Coca-Cola, Netflix,
Beef is
Champion.
What's for dinner?
I don't think you can have a Champion partnership because you're playing football at a Nike school. McDonald's. Is he saying he's partnering with places that he just goes?
I don't know. I partner with McDonald's when I drive.
I partner with a lot of people. Yeah. I got a lot of partnerships in my life.
I partner with coffee, Yeti,
Alabama Power.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
City of Homewood. Partnership there.
Big partner.
He partnered with TikTok.
Delta.
Oh, he's got a partnership with ESPN.
Oh.
It's on his graphics list right
No,
there.
you don't, because guess what?
MLS.
Fox has exclusive rights.
Oh, boy.
ESPN don't got Big Ten rights.
He's about to get sued,
Monday night
man.
they do.
You're right. Maybe that's what
They
happened.
kicked him off.
Liquid
Cease
death.
and desist.
Well, he's got a Taco Bell partnership. Stanley.
He's braided.
Just because you use Stanley tools to put the shelves up when you move in your apartment doesn't necessarily
It's
make
cute
that a
you think
partnership.
that it's the tools
Dude,
and not
this
the
is- This
water
is
bottle.
Lego?
This is a tried and true recipe that is.
He does have Nike and Pepsi. Wait, hold on. You have partnerships with Coke and Pepsi.
If Dave Chappelle did it, why can't he?
About to say. Len Perlman had a deal with NSYNC and Backstreet Boys.
I love it. Pit them against
Lou
each other.
Pearlman. There you go. I don't know what you're mad about.
Fortnite, Uber. Just because you take Uber home from the bar,
Doesn't mean
not necessarily partnership, by the way. Doritos, Meta, Cotton Bowl. You got a partnership with the Cotton Bowl.
Back.
That was quick.
No, not Goodyear, though.
I don't see Goodyear yet.
That sponsors the Cotton Bowl.
Well, some of these logos are small and I can't read them.
Is that because you're old, or is that because he
No,
wants
it's
them to
just-
be
He
nondescript?
Gillette.
doesn't have a relationship with glasses.
Gillette.
Okay.
Here's my
That could be
I have
gelati.
I have a
I don't
partnership
know.
with Gillette. I use Gillette razors to shave.
Look at
Partnership.
You got one with Sharpie.
Sharpie. What's the brand of this legal pad? Office Depot Professional.
There you go.
Hey.
Partnership.
You
Big
got
bang.
Publix. You got drinking water over there.
Yep.
Publix.
Publix. Partnership.
Dell.
I can't even get this 99-cent water
Yeah,
for
you got
free. but we
Dell,
got a
you got
partnership.
Apple.
That mouse
Oh, no,
pad in front of you.
I do have
Lenovo?
Apple partnership. They have so much of my money. They should call it a partnership.
Lenovo.
Yep.
I bought the Fire Stick. We're watching that.
Partnership. I mean, Roback, I do have a partnership, but yeah, it's actually a real one.
Well, brag about it.
Humble.
Brag about having an apparel sponsor.
I felt straight, not
Yep.
humble.
It
Yeah.
was. It
We
definitely
know.
was. Also, does anybody know why he got kicked off the team? Or just
Doesn't matter at this point. The
don't
truth
know.
won't be as good as what we've.
Yeah,
Doesn't
right.
matter.
Why are we referencing this one as dismissed
Maybe he's opting out.
of the national championship game? Imagine the partnerships that you
Because
could
if
have
he's
had, Greg.
dismissed, he's entitled to compensation
Who's
when the partnership's
sponsoring?
ended.
Who's the title sponsor of the Natty? I don't even know. Maybe that's why. So I can't do it with something that's not branded. This is a tried and true recipe. We've seen it before. It's like the 90s love story. Guy meets girl, they run away, they get married. Here's the 2020 version. Guy walks on to college team,
Guy
puts
meets TikTok,
college-
puts
puts
TikTok
college
ahead
team.
of team.
puts college team all over his social media feed, makes people think that he played for college team when he never actually played for college team. It gets to be boys with people that run social media accounts so that he gets active retweets and clout. And then he ultimately says he's going to transfers, never plays at the new school, and then ultimately shuts it down, yet still claims college team. We've seen this a million times. This has been a recipe that's been used many, many times. Many, many times. There are people that still do it for Alabama.
He joined the team as a walk-on in 2022. Has not played a snap.
What position does he play?
Don't know.
61.
It looks like lacrosse based on his TikTok.
61 leaves you so many options.
Is that really his number?
Yes.
Oof.
Where did you look at the roster?
No, I saw a picture of him signing autographs on Fan Day. Shout out to my people.
Well, here he is in his jersey. Oh, you're right.
Fans?
Wait, that looks like a 3. That could be a 1. By the way, when your jersey is that too big in your pads,
He's a kicker.
Well, they don't usually make slim fit 61s. Hate to break it to you.
That's fair. Totally fair.
Hey, we need another 61. What size should we put it on? Oh,
This according to Sporting News. 6'5", 220-pound talent out of Mason, Ohio. Davis garnered 2-star status according to 247 Sports. Received offers from Army, Navy, and Georgetown. That's
you go.
impressive.
Oh, so
You get an Army,
he's
Navy
educated.
offer. That's impressive.
heck yeah. I got no problem. I literally have no problem with this guy using TikTok. What I have a problem with is when you overdo your place at the table within the Ohio State ecosystem and you use Ohio State for your own clout. That to me bothers me. Like destroying. Remember when destroying got started? He was at FIU, right?
Mm.
He didn't use FIU to become destroying. He became
Was
destroying
it
and
FIU or UCF?
whatever it was. Who cares? It's so much so that I don't even know where he played. Destroying was destroying before any of us knew anything about where he played. He didn't draft off the clout of UCF or FIU, whichever team he played for.
I don't know. I mean, it is the bounce house.
Was it UCF? Do we even know? Was it
I
FIU?
think it was. Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
His was a little different though because
No,
they
it was
wouldn't.
UCF.
They
It was
wouldn't
UCF.
allow him to earn based on what he was doing on YouTube.
Right.
And so he left because he was making real money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Nah, dog, I'm taking those checks. So
Yes.
you can keep your college football.
Correct.
I got the XFL coming up, and he's coming back this year.
San
I'm
Antonio.
excited about it.
Good.
So-
Glad you are.
I
But
am.
All I care about, just don't use the school when you haven't provided anything of value to the school.
It's all about added value, whether you're a walk-on, scholarship, YouTube, or not. And now we're going to give you some added value here on Jocks. I'd like to introduce you to our friend and wealth advisor, Tad Hill, your trusted retirement planning partner. Tad is a co-host of the Retire with Freedom radio and TV shows in Birmingham and Huntsville. Also, designated by Forbes as the #1 financial security professional in the state of Alabama, multiple years running. Tad, what do you have for us today?
Thanks, Cole. What I want to do today is talk about the foundation of retirement planning, which is income planning. And what income planning boils down to is how are you going to replace the income that you need in retirement once your paychecks stop? First, we have to figure out exactly how much are you going to need from your savings and investments. We need to start with how much is going out the door, and then exactly what can you expect from sources of income like Social Security and pension. And then the conversation shifts to what are the strategies that you can employ to ensure that you don't run out of income in retirement. All of these are things that we cover in detail in our Retire with Freedom course that we teach in our office on Valleydale Road. If you would like to get signed up for that, text JOX, J-O-X, to 205-988-0006. That's 988-0006.
This is a paid placement. Investment advisory services are made available through AE Wealth Management. For more information about Forbes rankings, visit Forbes.com.
Moving on from our TikTok discussion, unless you have anything else to add to it, Greg.
No, I think I've said what I need to say.
Damien is a member of the TikTok generation. Your thoughts on, what's his name? Caden Davis? Kyle Davis.
Yeah.
Joe Davis.
Wish him well on the way out, brother.
Corey Davis.
No, it's not Corey Davis.
Caden Davis.
Keep your swag.
Being dismissed
Enjoy
from the
it.
team.
Hey.
By the way, that'll probably be his most watched video. Why I got kicked off the team. Should be dropping that one soon. Hey guys, this is Caden Davis. Tell you why I got
Before I tell you about that, let me tell you about my friends at fill in the blank.
Game Day Men's Health. Game Day Men's Health. If you're feeling tired, if you're feeling on edge, I can tell you how they help me, and they can also help you. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today, and they'll give you a free appointment. And with that free appointment, you're going to get a PSA test and a testosterone test. That's right, guys. All you got to do is go to Game Day Men's Health. It's not funny for the people because they didn't hear his videos.
No.
We listened to his videos during the break, so that's not funny for you guys. But if you are having trouble sleeping, if you're on edge, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Get that free consultation today, free PSA test, free testosterone test. Ask them about their weight loss options. There are a lot of different things with your health that they can help you with today. Weight loss, just one of them. Holistic approach to health and wellness. Minimal upfront costs for the programs that they offer. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today and set up a consultation. Minimal upfront cost. That's big to remember when you visit Game Day Men's Health. Locker room environment, stress-free, a lot that they can do for your health. Mention Cube and save 10% on any service that they offer. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. The coach, Wimp Sanderson, going to be with us next. Ask him how Alabama bounces back from that loss to Ole Miss, why Auburn is still successful without Jani Broome, and what the schedule looks like for both teams moving forward. Keep it locked right here on Jocks 94.5. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945 as well. We are back for the 9 o'clock hour. Hour number 3, Thursday, January 16th, Jocks 94.5. Also, if you're heading down towards Montgomery Sports Radio 740, you can tune in there. That is our monotone area that we broadcast in. Also up north, Sports Radio 730, 1039 The Ump. That's Talk Radio 730, 1039 The Ump. He joins us each and every Thursday at this time, thanks to our friends at Coke and Piggly Wiggly. It's the coach, Wimp Sanderson. How are you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing okay. I usually ask y'all football questions, but I don't have any. I know we need to talk basketball. Greg wasn't here the last time I think I talked basketball, so I heard him make a couple of statements that were good, but not exactly right. But He's good. Both of y'all are good.
About basketball?
No, you just said, Alabama plays 3 teams twice. And the 3 teams that they play twice are tough teams.
So what did we say that was inaccurate?
I don't know. I don't think you said anything wrong. I was just trying to pull your string. You're great. I think you're good. I like to pull your string every now and then.
Well, I got to at least have some level of accountability. I got to at least ask like what it was that was wrong so we could fact check it.
Not a thing, not one thing. I'll just pull that out of the hat. Anyway, 3 games, 3 teams, Mississippi State, Auburn, and Kentucky are the 3 teams that they play twice. That's a hard 3 teams. When you look at trying to decide who is going to win the league, I have already said 15-3, 14-4 will probably win it. Alabama's had a game the other night where you've got to give Ole Miss some credit, and Alabama fell on their face as well. 21 turnovers, didn't play as well as they should have doing that. And Ole Miss did a really good job of really defending the dribbler. That's a real key. People don't talk about that, but if you can defend the dribbler, especially Sears, you got a better chance to beat Alabama.
Coach, hold on. Stop right there. So take us further into what that means, because most people would say, well, nobody just doesn't defend the player with the basketball. So what's different about what you're talking about?
Okay. If you're defending the dribbler and you don't defend, if you don't defend the dribbler and the dribbler gets by you, it's a layup. If you don't defend the dribbler, the guy guarding the guy next to you has to come over and help. And when he comes over and helps, it means you and Greg are both on the same guy. I throw the ball to that guy who came over to help, that offensive guy, and he makes a 3. So by defending the 3, by defending the dribbler, you cut down on the 3s because somebody has to come over and help you because you're not doing a very good job. There are lob passes, both of you know, as the dribbler dribbles down there, especially Sears and the other kid too, dribbles down through there, they will throw the lob pass to a big guy on the backside for an easy shot. You've got to put as much pressure on him as you possibly can to keep that lob pass from being really good, as well as the guy guarding the guy that he's going to lob to. So defending the dribbler, it was critical. That's what Ole Miss tried to do. Now, I've already said about Alabama's 21 turnovers. Well, and then after you do that, then you go out and try to do the very best you possibly can to defending the 3. If I were coaching today, I'd spend half my time on defending the 3 and defending the dribbler. If you're defending Sears, what would I do? I would guard Sears without the ball. I would guard him without the ball and not let him catch it. Now, am I going to keep that? Is that going to happen all the time? No. But I would alternate 2 people on him and keep him from catching the ball as much as I can. At the end of the game, his legs would be tired from really trying to get open against, and I'd have my guy say, hey, you're going in there and you're going to defend Sears for 4 minutes. And then somebody else is going to come in and they're going to defend him for 4 minutes. So I would guard him without the ball. Now, you can't always do that, and that's great talk, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's what I did against great players. We didn't do it very well against Pistol Pete when he got 64, but that's what I do.
It's an interesting thought.
What do you do on nights like the other night when just nothing seems to go your way? Team is sloppy, turning it over. Like, how do you as a coach how do you kind of elevate them out of what appears to be a bit of a funky performance?
Yeah. Well, I would say this to you before the games and in practice, and you're going to say, Wimp, come on. You would say on the turnovers that you have in practice, you would stop that by having this guy run. Hey, look, throw the ball to the open man, not to the one that you think might be open. Now that sounds pretty stupid to you. But Dean Smith was one of the great coaches of all time in North Carolina. We played against him. We were pretty good against him. And his emphasis was always throw the basketball to the open man, not the one you think might be open. And I think that's a good thought for Alabama. Try to get the basketball to the guy who is open, not the one you think might be open. And you've got to do a situation where if your guy keeps turning it over, you get somebody in there. or a foreman, but you try to emphasize that at practice, and you probably make them run. It's just like free throws. Texas A&M went to the line. They couldn't throw one in the ocean standing on the shore, shooting free throws. And if that's the case, then we're going to have some free throw shooting with as much pressure as we can get in practice. In other words, I did this. I would have everybody shoot. Your life at this. Everybody on the team had 15 guys shoot one free throw. If anybody missed a free throw, everybody got on the line and they ran a lot. And so then the players would start saying, let's get the worst free throw shooters up there first. So when they make them the good free throw shooters, we won't have to run. So I'd penalize them. I wouldn't talk a lot about missing free throws or making free throws around my team. I don't think I'd talk about it much, but I would just simply, without them, thinking anything about it, except that's practice. I would practice free throw shooting by putting a penalty on them in practice. That's me, but I'm a different kind of guy, so I don't know.
Why do you think Auburn was able to have success without Janai Broome? I think a lot of people thought they would just faceplant without him in the lineup.
Well, I think Auburn's very, very good defensively. They keep themselves from getting beat. They're playing at home. Playing at home at Auburn is darn hard, and it's hard at Kentucky for Alabama. But playing at home is a big key for Auburn because they've got such great home court advantage, and they do a really good job of defending. Mississippi State was not a great, Mississippi State's 1 for 12 the first half with threes. So if you're 1 for 12, they're 3 for 24 in the game. As best I can remember. I try to remember so many stats. I can't remember them all. But when you're as good as they are defensively without the foul. Remember now, a foul is a defensive mistake. In most cases, there are times that it's not. When you get on the boards of me and you go at the ball and I foul you, that's not a defensive mistake. But a lot of the times, it fouls are defensive mistakes. One of the big keys in winning basketball games for Alabama, Auburn, all of them, is offensive rebounding. How many offensive shots, how many offensive rebounds am I going to get against Kentucky? If I miss a three, but I get another one, and I get another one, then I've got a better chance of winning possession-wise. If I go to the defensive end and I can limit them to getting 2 and 3 shots per possession, I've got a better chance to win. Now, these things that I talk about here are things I haven't talked about on this show before, but I think are darn important. So we're going through a basketball season where the basketball team has got 10, 11, 12 teams in the NCAA tournament, probably. Is there a disappointment in the league this year? Yes, one, Arkansas. Arkansas is the big disappointment right now. It's zipping 4. There are 2 teams that are undefeated. Of course, that's Ole Miss and Auburn. A lot of them at 3-1, and so that's about all I know about the basketball end of it. So.
What about how Alabama matches up with Kentucky Saturday morning at 11 on ESPN?
Well, I think they open up okay with them. They've got to defend the 3, and they've got to get to them. They got an offensive board. They got to guard their dribble. They got to do the things that everybody does. Mark Pope is loved. They're coaches that are loved by. Of course, you're more loved when you win. I understand that. But Mark, he's got away with them because they were mad at the other coaches, particularly in Cal. He's got away with them where everybody is all excited about it. Of course, they're excited anyway, but he's done a good job with them, and they've won the close games. And so they're good. Just like switching over to football, the Notre Dame coach is gotten everybody loving him. Not gotten them. I think that's the way he is. The problem is that the media didn't realize that Mark or the coach at Notre Dame were that kind of people, particularly as coaches, until they kind of interviewed them and they got a feel for them after a loss or a feel for them after a big win, just a kind of a feel, and you get that feel. And so I'd say the 2 coaches that are liked or loved by their fans, and that doesn't mean particularly anything, I guess, but it is something to talk about. Those 2 guys are basketball and football, so I don't know. Anything else I can tell y'all?
Lastly, I mean, just Auburn and how they're playing right now. It feels like they're better defensively without Janai. Is that fair?
Yeah. Probably not. No, he's a shot blocker and he's a defensive rebounder. You've got to have him, and he will. Auburn, and I'm not here to predict games. Auburn will have a difficult time at Georgia. Georgia is playing a little bit better. Their home court advantage has not always been what it has at other places, but they're a pretty big basketball team, a pretty good basketball team, and beating Kentucky there was big for their fans. Of course, they're all excited about that, and I don't blame them. So I think Auburn, as I said, at times I thought, and I think I was incorrect. I said that I felt like Broome was a good player. I didn't know how much he would carry Auburn. Well, I was wrong. He's carried them a long way, and they've beaten some good teams. And Bruce can coach the fire out of them. He coaches them really good and gets them to play, and they're smart offensively as well. So I think Auburn will have a tough time. I think Alabama will probably have a pretty tough time as well. So it should be two interesting games, and we'll see what happens, folks.
We'll see. And you look at the rest of the league. Is there a team that you feel like, not named Auburn, that is also separated itself from everybody else, or is it just 6-7 teams that you feel like are kind of interchangeable at the top of the SEC?
Yeah, I think you've got a 4-team bottom, 5 teams on the bottom, and I think you've got the 5 teams up front a little bit. Arkansas eliminated themselves, but Kentucky and Tennessee, Alabama and Auburn, those 4 right there are going to be as good. Right below that, or maybe with that, is Florida. But for Missouri to go down and beat Florida at Florida, I scratched my head on that one. But add Florida to that. There are 5 teams. Good question. There are 5 teams at the top. Right now, there are 4 at the bottom. That's 9, and those other 6 teams are in. So whatever number there is left is it sort of in the middle. They all want to find out who's going to the NCAA tournament. We will see. When I was coaching, nobody cares about this, but it's quite different. You had to win 20 games or about to win 20 games. It's not that way anymore. And so my theory was to be I'm a schedule freak. To be darn sure I schedule good teams, but also some teams I could beat to get to 20. That was back before either one of you were born. So, when things change, football and basketball, football's confusion is crap too. So anyway, I appreciate you guys having me on. I know you want to get rid of me, but Piggly Wiggly and Coca-Cola do a great job. And I enjoy being on y'all's show. I don't always say the right things, but I enjoy y'all's show just like I enjoy going into Piggly Wiggly and visiting with them and coming out with a smile on my face. Stanley, Andy are great people, and Coke is a great product. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Coach. We always appreciate it, and we'll have a lot to talk about next week after the games this weekend and next week. So thanks for hopping on.
Y'all shoot some threes. I heard y'all talk about shooting. Are y'all shooting any threes? Greg, y'all shooting threes any?
I'm playing a lot right now, Coach, on an 8-foot goal.
Same.
So I haven't seen a 10-foot goal in a minute, but
hold on, Coach. Wait a second. Let's do this real quick. Let's do this before we let you go. Greg will be coaching kindergartners this year. I will be coaching first grade basketball this year. What advice do you have for us?
Have fun, I think, because they're gonna make a big. And let me tell you, don't dribble it so much, son. Pass that ball and cut. Don't put that. If you dribble it, the other 4 are scratching their head. One thing I'm finding out, Coach, is bounce pass critical, because these lob passes are getting picked off. Like, we got to get the bounce passes going. Now, if you're running with the ball listen to me now. If you're running with the ball, which y'all are not going to be doing much, a bounce pass is too cotton-picking slow. If you're trying to go somewhere. We're not running fast break offense. This ain't Nate O's team, Coach. We're not doing that.
3-and-D. Coach, I also, for the record, I have my first YMCA basketball practice tonight. I am the head coach.
You are?
Yes.
Are you making out the lineup?
I am. It's pretty simple, though. People unhappy. Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's 3-and-D philosophy, no blood, no foul type of approach. Is that appropriate for kindergartners?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's okay. Yeah.
Perfect. And if they have a liability at the lane, if they have a liability at the line that we can see in pregame, we'll just hack that kid and send him to the line, and we'll be fine.
And no, I don't think y'all in these things that you guys are doing. I don't think y'all are shooting free throws. But let me tell you this: just tell the free throw shooter to do one thing to help him. Tell him to raise his elbow. Raise his elbow, and he'll put a better stroke on it.
How many free throws out of 10 you think I can make right now on a 10-foot goal?
3.
It's embarrassing. I'll send you a video. I'm gonna go to the gym today.
All right. I don't let Greg ask because I don't. He might make 3 too. I don't know.
I'm not going to sit there and put I'm not as confident on the basketball court shooting as Cole is. I don't think I'm going to embarrass myself.
We're talking about free throws, though.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to hit 90% like you do. Like, I think if I hit 6 out of 10, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you feel 60%. Congratulations. Yeah, that's not bad.
I feel pretty. I think I can get to. I think I can get to 5 or 6. Cole thinks anything less than 8.
Greg, don't tell him. He meant tell him. You raise your elbow. You can beat him. You can beat him. Raise your elbow, and you'll make more free throws.
I'm telling my kids to raise their elbow in the paint. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. They got. Oh no. Let me tell you this about the paint. Now, listen to me. The backboard is your friend.
Oh, yeah.
These goobers out there playing basketball. I'm gonna tell you, I had a rule. If you went in and you fancied it up, dunking it, you were out. You were out. He was sitting by me. If you did it at practice, you went to the top of Coleman Coliseum and down twice. I don't mind you dunking it, but don't you go in there to try to dunk the basketball and be cute and miss it. Don't be missing no dunks on me because you think you're going to be cute. You see all these guys cute. It drives me crazy. I take him out and put him under the bench. I don't want to have a chance to get a lay. The backboard is your friend. It is your friend.
We agree.
Hey, this is a good segment today.
It is. It is. How do I teach rebounding positioning to a 7-year-old?
I don't think you do. Hey, son, get the ball.
We're running gassers to start today, Coach. I'm setting the tone early.
You can't play fatigue. You can't play.
Don't run any gassers early. Now, don't do them that way.
Yeah, we are. No,
I was going to roll them on the hardwood
floor. This ain't a freebie. These Mountain Brook kids need to know.
You can roll the ball. You can roll the ball and have a diving drill.
Oh, no. I'm talking about roll the kids, like for punishment. Like roll them across the hardwood floor.
Diving drill. Now, that feels good.
I like that.
Get on the floor.
Let me tell you a diving drill. That mamas and daddies, mamas and daddies will they be mad.
Trips to the dentist?
Trips to everything.
I don't know. They'll be wearing those dang gladiator caps that they put on football helmets at the basketball practice if we start doing it.
If you got a situation where you got substitutes in the game and their kid doesn't play much, you got troubles.
That's not a real thing on our team, Coach.
Oh, good.
All the kids play the same. Nobody's going to say anything about it.
See, because Cole believes in.
Joel over there getting 5 shots. My son didn't even get to shoot one.
Well, Cole believes in an egalitarian system. Meanwhile, where I come from, Coach, it's a meritocracy. You make your shot, you get to shoot again. You make it again, you shoot again. You miss it, go sit on the bench. I'll tell you when you can come off.
What if all 5 kids miss their first shot? You got no players?
Fine with me.
We got 11. Us run up and down the court?
That's why we're deep. We're deep on our squad.
Don't let your kids over dribble and use the backboard. Basketball, remember, this is a game of angles. Angles. If you use it where you got the bank shot in there close, you'll make 25% more than the guy who shoots it down the baseline and has no board. Angles is
angles.
Key.
Got it.
Thanks.
Angles works. It's a game of geometry.
What angle should the elbow be in the post on the opposing player? High, low, midsection?
No, I don't. Hey, son, put the ball against the board and make it.
I'm talking about on defense. We're D'ing them up. Do we put the elbow in the middle of their back? Do we put the elbow towards the rear end? Or do we put the elbow in the neck area?
You take the part of your knee and you stick your knee in their butt. Yeah, just take your knee.
I feel like that's
stick
not
your
going to go
little
over
knee.
well the next day at school, Coach. But
Well, it won't. But you didn't know you did it. You act like you didn't know you did it.
I didn't do that. Yeah.
No, that's right. I didn't. I didn't tell my guys to do that. They did that on their own. You got a lot out of it.
All right, Coach, we appreciate it. Great stuff. The one thing that I am anxious to see, Greg, I took my kids to the Sanford basketball game Saturday, and they had one of those deals where the ball is going out of bounds, and the guy runs and jumps and pegs the other player. And my 7-year-old looks at me and says, "Dad, you can do that?" And I was like, yeah.
Can, shouldn't. Big difference between can and should.
Challenge accepted, Dad.
He said, wait, so if it's going out of bounds, instead of letting it go out of bounds, I throw it at him as hard as I can? And I said, that's what he did.
Yes.
I said, now, not an easy thing to do. So if you can pull it off, sure. A lot of people aim for the right above the neck area when they do that stunt. So I don't know if that's going to be a real thing or not, but it has been introduced. Watch out. We'll be back with more right after this. $9:25 Thursday, January 16th, Jocks 94.5. Couple more out of the portal that we need to get to. Texas A&M is going to get Houston wide receiver Jonah Wilson, Greg, former 4-star wide receiver. Is this a good get for the Aggies?
I hope. I don't know for sure.
How do you not know?
Because I just ain't seen the tape. Need to study it. Need to dive in. Have you watched the tape?
I don't think he played last year, so it's okay. Vandy defensive lineman Zaylen Wood is going to get an extra year of eligibility, so he'll be back for the Commodores next year. Ole Miss gets a commitment from Washington State DB Kapina Gushikin. 52 tackles, 2 picks last year. Is that a good pick, Greg?
I think it's probably great.
Good get.
Seems fantastic.
Stanford quarterback. You ready for this one?
Yes.
I know what you're thinking.
I'm not.
It's not current Auburn quarterback.
No.
Stanford quarterback Justin Lamson is hitting the portal again as a graduate. So he can go in now because he's a graduate. And in 12 games last year, 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Good get?
Sounds great. I think you
Not
got to
really,
bring. I think
but-
you should take him too at Auburn. Double up.
Okay.
What if you took 2 guys from Stanford at quarterback? How hilarious.
Michigan gets a commitment from former UMass, former Arizona wide receiver Anthony Simpson, 57 catches, 792 yards in 2023. And finally, University of North Carolina quarterback Jacoby Criswell is going to the portal again.
No.
Honestly, I don't know how many times. He was at North Carolina. He was at Arkansas. He was at North Carolina again. Now he's in the portal again. So that would make 1 to get in, 1 to get out, get in. This is the 3rd or 4th time he's been in the portal.
This will be the 3rd, right?
Maybe.
So North Carolina, Arkansas, North Carolina, North Carolina to TBD.
So that's 5.
I want to say he was in and out again, though, at one, but I don't know. It's just a lot.
I think he was in and out again. It does feel like that happened at Arkansas. I just can't remember. It's been a lot. I can promise you that.
Offensive line coach Will Friend going to be hired at North Carolina also, who has been at every SEC school humanly possible.
North Carolina in the SEC?
He'll now get some ACC run.
Is that an indicator that North Carolina's joining the SEC?
I don't know what else would. That and Belichick. Has to be.
Has to be.
100%.
I'll put 20 on it.
You got 5 on it?
20.
Okay. Georgia running back Trevor Etienne is going to leave early for the NFL draft. Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers is going to leave for the NFL draft. Texas tackle Cam Williams is going to leave for the NFL draft. I understand the recruiting numbers. I understand how it's been going for a while, but there is no way, Greg, that you can sit there. I'm not saying you personally, because I know you wouldn't.
Ever.
But the people that are going to kind of brush this to the side, you are now down 3 wide receivers, a running back, a quarterback, 2 tackles, and a guard from this year's team. Like, there is no chance that people can sit there and just say, oh, they're fine. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Like, yeah, Wingo's coming back. Okay. Cole Hudson will be back to play guard. I don't really know your tackle situation, to be honest with you. Trevor Gooseby, I think, is going to have to be one of them. And you've got Arch Manning, but you were deep at running back this year, so you'll have a couple of guys that have gotten some run, but that's a lot of prowess gone from one offense.
I would say so. The thing that's funny to me about some of the movement, some of the adjustments, and some of the guys going to the league, to the portal, whatever, it's amazing to me how some teams are already being given the benefit of the doubt. Like, to me, I think just given the way the world has now gone, every single team's roster deserves scrutiny. If there's significant turnover, given the Georgia, let's use Georgia for example, given how average Georgia looked at times when guys were out of the lineup this year,
especially the offensive line.
Why are, I'm not, like I said, this is not exclusively critical of Georgia, but when people leave Georgia, it's like, no problem. They're good. Why is that? When people leave Texas, it's like, no problem. They're good. Why is that? To me, every single year, it's a little concerning because of how thin these rosters are.
Yes.
Even if you can reinforce in the portal, that's great, but still very tough to replicate the production of the previous year.
I just think that Coach Saban did it masterfully for so many years, and Kirby did it the first couple of years, that people are just willing to give that benefit of the doubt. And then it's a little bit of just leaning on the prior recruiting rankings, and that it'll all work itself out because of that, which I think is dangerous because, as you stated, how different was the Georgia run game with Tate Ratledge in out? How different were they 2 years ago with Mims in out of the lineup from a pass pro perspective, run perspective? How different were they with ATN in out of the lineup this year? I would say very different. So to just say that, they'll be fine. No, look at the recruiting. It's specifically with everything that Georgia has lost to the draft in the portal, what Texas has lost mainly to the draft. It's going to be hard for me to sit there and say they're just going to automatically be on the level that they were this past year. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just am amazed at how many people are willing to give the benefit of the doubt. Like last year when Nick, this is me not being a Bama homer. It's just acknowledging how different teams are treated in the court of public opinion. When Nick Saban decided to abruptly retire and the transfer portal opened and 40 plus guys went in, the sky was falling. The season's over. Everybody in Bama should just, prepare for a 7-win season. And like, why is it that Texas doesn't get comparable treatment when they've had a mass exodus, or Georgia when they've had a mass exodus? Because if there's one thing the current format of college football has taught us, is that when you lose one guy in your lineup to injury, it's not a guarantee that you're going to plug and play. You don't have the depth anymore. Like, your productivity might fall off a cliff in some cases. And it did this year at times with Georgia. So am I concerned about Georgia? You're dang right I am, because the expectation is to win national championships. It's not to go 8-4 and to finish in the top 25. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
I think it's hard to replace guys nowadays. I think it's hard if you have a lot of guys leave. It's a little bit like 20 years ago. It's going to be like returning starters. Oh, you have 7 returning starters. Yeah.
Good for you.
It's not great. Like, you need experienced guys. And if you don't have experienced guys, you need to do a good job with the additions that you made in the portal. But it's just going to be tough, man. I think it's going to be a lot tougher than people realize.
I'm with you. And that's where I think now your portal gets maybe that are not top of the line, like your Damon Wilson, who we talked about earlier. But maybe this is where sort of your FCS portal gets, or kind of your lower tier G5 portal gets, guys who can come in and spell you for a game or a series or 2 games or some sort of a stretch in the middle of a game, and there's not this massive drop-off. Don't have to be full-time starters. Don't have to be All-Americans. But when my starting defensive end goes out, all of a sudden it's not run off left tackle 32 times and we can't do anything about it.
Right.
Or every 3rd and long, we have 0 pass rush over there. So they don't have to worry about putting a back or a tight end there, and all of a sudden their game plan's different.
Correct. Now the whole world opens up to them.
But we want to, the portal rankings, and we want to go nuts about these guys from the here and there. Who are the guys you getting that are going to come in and be able to fill a spot and make sure that it doesn't go to hell in a handbasket when one of your starters does get hurt? That's where a lot of the value is that I don't think we spend enough time talking about. So we'll continue talking about it. Enough of the portal. There is one NFL note that I want to talk about. We kind of hit it a little bit earlier with Bobby Carpenter. The coaching situation in Dallas. What direction should it go? What direction would be best for it to go? We'll discuss it next right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Thursday, January 16th, 9:38 a.m. here on Jocks 94.5. We're going to talk some Cowboys coaching situation here in just a moment. We mentioned a couple of players that are heading to the NFL. Obviously, Coach Prime's kids heading to the NFL as well. Will it be Dallas? Should he be the guy in Dallas? We'll have a small, short discussion on that. And then after the break, get you to our bad box scores of the day. A lot of you still sending in your response on exactly what you think when or about Alabama's most underrated players under Coach Saban. That was a great topic today, and we appreciate all your feedback there. At Mac and Cube, you can always tweet in, be a part of the show. Want to tell you guys about Royal Automotive. You guys know how I feel about Royal Automotive. They are fantastic. They want to help you experience how car buying should be. 4 Royal-owned dealerships in one location, selection, savings unmatched. Royal, the only place to find over 20 unique truck and SUV options in one spot. 0% for 60 months is back on Volkswagen Tiguan models. Get up to $10,000 off select 2025 GMC Sierra models. Sign and drive select Volvo XC40, XC60, XC90 models with 0 down, 0 due at signing. 0 for your first payment. Go see my friends at Royal. They're going to help you get the best deal available. All offers valid through January 31st. Certain restrictions apply. Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills, all at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 of Vestavia. Online, royalautomotive.net. Make Royal your first and last stop when car shopping. But remember, for every ride, there's Royal. Coach Prime to the Cowboys. We asked Bobby Carpenter about it a little bit earlier in the show, Greg. Is it a good idea? Is it worth the risk? You talked about the attention that it would garner, and it would be borderline insufferable.
Yeah.
And not because of him, but just because of how the Cowboys are covered now in general. And it would go to a completely different level. Does Jerry, I thought it was interesting what Bobby Carpenter said. This might be his last coaching hire. Based on how he runs through coaches, I'd probably say I'd put my money on no there. But where would you sort of view this potential of maybe Deion Sanders being the next Cowboys head coach?
I think it's unlikely. And it's partly because I just think Jerry when he hired Bill Parcells and Bill Parcells revitalized the Cowboys in the early 2000s, Bill Parcells got all the credit. And I don't think he's hired that big time coach because he doesn't want the credit to go to the coach again, like it did with Jimmy Johnson. That's my own opinion from a distance. I don't know. That's the sense I get, though. Like, why do you hire Mike McCarthy? It's just an underwhelming hire. I mean, Wade was an underwhelming hire. I mean, he's a coordinator they elevated. Jason Garrett was a coordinator that they elevated. Like, they haven't really they haven't had a splashy hire in a long time. I think because they don't want to deflect the attention from the ownership and the GM. We want the credit to go to the ownership, not to the coach that was hired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They kind of need a puppet coach that is going to probably take all the blame, but probably not get all the credit. And that's not the way things will go if Deion Sanders decides to become the head coach of the Cowboys.
100% would agree with that. Could not see that happening. I also feel like Bobby was almost a little bit down on the Kellen Moore possibility. But that doesn't sound bad to me at all. Where would you be on him being the next Cowboys head coach?
He just doesn't have experience, and it's hard for me to feel great about a guy that doesn't have ample experience when you're in win now mode. I mean, how wide is this window for the Cowboys? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I know that there's...
Well, you'll never be on First Take.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't cover the NFL religiously. So I don't anticipate the Cowboys window closing anytime soon. But one, is it wide enough to win a championship now is a question. Right. And then two, they need a guy that can win now. Jerry is not a patient man. And I don't know if Kellen Moore is the guy who in his first head coaching job is going to be the leader of the Dallas Cowboys. Yep. Seems like an awful lot.
No, you're right. All right. So we'll continue talking about that until the Cowboys do have their man. On the other side, we will bring you bad box scores of the day and wrap up today's show next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9:46, Thursday, January 16th, Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com, apps in your app store, iPhone, Android. Download it for free. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year. They're the national champ. Dealerships, that was named a while ago, they've won 7 of them. That's a dynasty. They've won 4 in a row. That's a pretty remarkable stretch, and it's likely that it's going to become 5 in a row here very soon, especially with the deals that they have on the lot. Nobody sells more in the southeastern part of the United States than Bill Smith. That's why they can offer better deals than anyone else here in the great state of Alabama. Go get yourself a GMC Yukon Denali. It's a beautiful, brand new vehicle. $90,665 is the list price. They'll get it to you for $10,000 off, just over $80,000. It's deals like that keep people coming back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers, because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take the short drive to Coleman. You're glad you did. You can also shop online. Have to right to your driveway at Bill Smith Buick, GMC.com.
All right, going to the Buyers Right hotline now. Welcome in Ryan Harris. He does color for Notre Dame Radio, also Super Bowl champion with the Broncos. And we've talked a lot about this team. We've talked a lot about Coach Freeman. I wanted the listeners just to get your thoughts on Coach Freeman first. If you don't mind sharing what you shared with me at the Orange Bowl, just about why you think these players play for him, why they give a little bit of extra effort, because it was fascinating to hear your thoughts on it being so close to the program.
Hey, well, Cole and Greg, great to be with you. Well, it starts with Marcus Freeman himself being where these players are currently. Marcus Freeman played the game. In my experience, the best coaches are the ones who actually played the game. And a couple of things that Marcus Freeman did immediately ingratiated himself to his team. Number one, the way he coached his defense. And one of the things he tells everybody on the team is, expect to make that play. We put you in that game because we expect you to make that play. So he's constantly encouraging players with a high expectation. He changed their spring schedule. Before they were practicing in the morning so people could golf who weren't players. Now they practice in the afternoon in the spring because of Marcus Freeman understanding that going to school is important. It makes you a better football player, and it's maximizing the opportunity. And that's what you're teaching these young men to do game in and game out. And then the other thing he's doing is he's taking the responsibility of leading young men. The three of us know what it's like to be 3-4 years in a program, and the amount of time you spend with that leader, that head coach, it becomes a father figure, especially if you are away from home. And one of the things Marcus Freeman does is he meets with his players weekly, individually. He says, hey, let's get together, let's talk. And players have told me half the time they're not even talking about football. And that's the kind of leader you need if you're a young person in an increasingly competitive environment that the Notre Dame finds itself in the playoffs. But Marcus Freeman has told this team from the beginning that they are built different. And it is also something that is now ringing true. So between the honesty, the transparency, handling the schedule, and actually talking to his players as individuals, that's why Marcus Freeman and his team have fought through every single opponent since Northern Illinois to be in the national championship.
I don't think anyone disagrees that this team deserves to be here. They've earned it, and they've earned everyone's respect along the way. There is a question about whether or not, though, this step up in class, given the personnel that Ohio State has, might be a step that's just a touch too far. I still am a believer and will continue to be a believer in Notre Dame. Nothing will change my opinion on that. I've seen them up close and personal 4 times this year and come away impressed every single time. I do think this will be by far their biggest challenge, though. Are they up for it?
Of course they are. I mean, what you're saying is that Will Howard is the difference from the last 2 years in which Notre Dame kept both games close. And specifically last year, they had lost on the last play of the game with 10 men on the field. So if you're telling me that Will Howard is the jump that's going to get this game to be 23-7, I don't see it. I mean, what I do see is Travion Henderson's a problem, has been a problem for everybody who's faced him running the ball. But Notre Dame has seen Travion Henderson each of the last 2 years. They know what that feels like. They know that front side on the zone might be hitting in the first half, but in that second half, they're going to start cutting it back. So I think the familiarity of many of the players on this Notre Dame roster with Ohio State is something that's getting overlooked. And there's a fear factor. We all know this from playing. sometimes you have to get over the fact that it's a big game. You have to get over the jersey. You have to get over the helmet. I still remember in the NFL, first time I played the Cowboys and seeing the sun shine on the silver star, I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is awesome. Wait, we're playing in a game. So that moment is going to be gone for this Notre Dame team. And more than anything, Xavier Watts came back for this game, right? Jack Kaiser, linebacker, came back for this game. Riley Leonard came to Notre Dame for this game. So the chip on the shoulder is on Notre Dame, and all the pressure to win is on Ohio State. They have to do it. Notre Dame isn't supposed to be here. There are people picking Indiana to beat Notre Dame. And I would have loved to hear which one of you, if you two had picked Penn State or Notre Dame, because every single thing that Notre Dame is hearing about this game, they've heard it before. Oh, you haven't gone against a receiver like this. Okay, well, they handled that. You haven't gone against a quarterback like that. Let me tell you right now, nobody's better than that Maiava kid at USC. Why he wasn't starting to begin the year, I don't know. But he's a fantastic quarterback. You're not going to see a better rusher than Singleton last week. Nick Singleton, I think, is a top 5 pick. He is an unbelievable player. So Notre Dame has shut down every single threat that has come their way since Northern Illinois. And I believe they are going to take the sum of those lessons and give us the most electric college football national championship that we've had in years.
Ryan Harris is the color commentary for Notre Dame radio broadcast of their football games. He played for the Broncos, won a Super Bowl there on the Buyers Right Hotline. We talked about some of the more advantageous matchups for Notre Dame. It doesn't feel like there's a ton of them. But what do you think has the potential to be the most problematic where the
pocket limit can does he have? I mean, Ohio, I don't know how a receiver in the NFL, right? I mean, you're going to have a receiver from Ohio State probably in every single game of the playoffs. And Tate is a fantastic receiver. Henderson can receive the ball too. And so I think the biggest thing for Notre Dame is defensively, can you get 2 turnovers? Can you knock the ball loose? Can you pick off Will Howard? Or can you get it twice? And if Notre Dame's defense can create 2 turnovers, I don't think it really matters who's playing well for Ohio State.
Finally, in the event in which they do get the win, Notre Dame that is, what does that mean for the future of college football?
Well, it means that one of the perennial blue blood programs is back at the top. And look, Marcus Freeman's going to clean house in recruiting for the next 2 years anyways. I mean, the man wore a diamond chain on ESPN. You want any other coach doing that? And if you look at the interviews between James Franklin and Marcus Freeman and what transpired before that last game at the Orange Bowl, if you're a player, where do you want to go? And if you're a player's parents, where do you want them to go? Right? I mean, come on. Marcus Freeman has brought Notre Dame back to the top of the college football discussion and has been doing it while graduating young men to be forces for good when they're done playing the game. And no coach has dealt with more than Marcus Freeman. He went 0-3 to start his college coaching career, right? Look at him now. So he has every single piece of the resilience that this Notre Dame team has shown. And I think that this is the brightest future Notre Dame has had probably since Charlie Weiss was there and we went to back-to-back BCS games. But this is a different team with different depth, with different talent, and it's all a nod to Marcus Freeman and his coaching and the job that his coaches have done in recruiting as well.
Hey, Ryan, great stuff, man. Thanks for the time. Definitely appreciate it. Look forward to catching up soon. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, guys. Huge fans of you both. Go Irish.
Appreciate you. Ryan Harris there of the Notre Dame Radio Network joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Quickly before we get out, your bad box score of the day. We will go to men's junior college hoops. The Bryant and Stratton College Bobcats just sneak past the Madison College Wolfpack.
The Wolfpack.
82-40.
Ooh,
and
your score at the half.
Double up.
44-16.
Ooh.
Not great.
Brian Stratton, 30-66 from the floor, 11-31 from 3. Out-rebounded the Wolfpack, 52-32. Wolfpack go 2 of 15 from 3, 14 of 47 from the floor,
Double gross.
10 of 23 from the free throw line.
That's triple gross.
Not great.
Only 18 turnovers.
That's not bad.
Hey, something to improve.
Only one player hit a 3 in the game. So, well, both. A and the other.
A.
That's your bad box score of the day. Appreciate everybody that hopped on today. We're back tomorrow. Stan for Steve, Aaron Taylor talking national championship game. 3-man front coming up next, followed by Paul Feinbaum.